Hello to all my fans. My first name is Secret Kismet, and today I really have a treat for you because I haven't talked about it on my awesome YouTube channel yet, but Breaking Bad is actually one of my favorite shows of all time. It's in my top two favorite shows. The only thing that beats it is Miraculous Ladybug. Yup. So, I love Breaking Bad, but I feel like it's just not popular enough. I feel like not enough people are watching it. Let's really investigate this. How many people watch Breaking Bad? Only 10.3 viewers. So I think that we need to up that number a little bit. And today I'm going to do a recap of all of Breaking Bad so that anybody out there in the world or on the internet can learn a little bit more about this show that I've come to love. This show is really progressive. This show is really awesome. Um, yeah, but it's pretty old. So not everybody, if you didn't watch it when it was coming out like me, then you might not. I just don't think that you would want to sit through all these episodes. There's like a lot of them. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to go episode by episode giving a recap. So we're starting off with season one, of course. And the first thing you're going to notice is that season one actually aired on January 20th. And if you're not from the United States of America, you might not know that that is actually Inauguration Day. In 2008, that was an election year in the United States of America. So January 20th, 2008 is actually the exact day that President Barack Obama was sworn into office for the first time. And that isn't just a coincidence, that is actually very intentional. They intentionally made the first episode come out the day that Barack Obama became the president of the United States because Barack Obama, well, okay, I don't want to spoil anything, but all I'm going to say is that Barack Obama plays more of a role than most people know. But moving forward, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's start with season one, episode one, pilot. And I know this is kind of a weird episode title, pilot. Like, is this show about a pilot? No, it's actually not about a pilot. It's about somebody who sells drugs. But sometimes, like, a pilot of a show is like the first episode. It's like they like make the pilot first to see if it'll do well. It's called a pilot. So let's read this description together and then I'll tell you what's going on. Walter White is a high school chemistry teacher. That's right, he's an educator who learns that he has lung cancer. With a new lease of life, Walter sets up a mobile meth lab with a former student and becomes a drug dealer in order to secure his happiness, probably. Um This, okay. I know what you're thinking. Are you kidding me? I don't want to watch a show about somebody who sets up a mobile mouth lab with a former student. That's crazy. That's taking advantage of a former student. That's not good at all. But first of all I'm going to say is that if you have that opinion, clearly you've never been close to any of your high school teachers and gone back to see them as an adult because things can really happen there. You can like start like, I'm not surprised that they would start a business together if they were both hurting, and trust me, they both were hurting. So it doesn't say the name of the student here, but this former student, his name is Jesse. Yes, he is. His name is Jesse. He is the deuteragonist of the series, and Walter White is actually his former high school chemistry teacher, as it says. And the way that this shakes down is that when he learns that he has lung cancer, he gets stressed out and he talks to Jesse, who whose dad recently died of lung cancer, and he Walter knows that, and Walter is like, "How did you get through it?" And then Jesse's like, "Well, my dad became a meth dealer." And Walter's like, "Oh, I don't know about that." And then Jesse's like, "Well, in New Mexico, which is where they live in New Mexico. He's like, in New Mexico, this is like kind of the only thing you can do to get this special secret lung cancer treatment serum. You have to like the the cartel, it has access to this lung cancer treatment serum, but you have to be like really good at like drug dealing in order to get it. And Walter's like, "Oh my God, I really don't want to do that." But then he like starts a little bit and he realizes that he's actually like really good at it. Like he's really good with his mobile meth lab. Like he because he's a chemistry teacher, he knows exactly what kind of chemicals to put in pots. He knows exactly how to use beakers. He's really good at it. So that's basically what the first episode is about. We learn that Walter has a wife named Skylar and a little baby boy named Walter Jr., who is really sweet. And he might even have a baby on the way. We get a little hint because his wife Skylar is like, "Wow, wouldn't it be great if we had another baby?" And then Walter is like, "Yeah, I guess." And then she like pats her body and she's like, "Hee hee hee." So like maybe she's pregnant. Either way, his life, it seemed like it was getting derailed, but kind of now it's like on the right track, or so he thinks. Let's move on to episode two, Cats in the Bag. And I know what you're thinking, cat, like he really has a cat now after all this. He's got enough going on. It's not that kind of cat. Let's move on. Following their debacle in the desert, Walter and Jesse are left with a mess to dispose of. Later, Skylar grows suspicious of Walt's recent activity. I forgot to mention they kill someone in the desert in this episode. Um, his name is Ollie. There's somebody named Ollie who has a mobile meth lab, and the way that they get their mobile meth lab is that they kill Ollie in the desert. Um, So now they have to dispose of Ollie's body in the desert, which is a recurring theme of this show. People are always disposing of bodies in the desert. Um, it represents like the desert is dry and um, it's like a serum. Like a serum is really wet, and everybody wants the serum. But like if you're out in the desert, that means that you're high and dry without the serum. Um, so that's like what that represents thematically. Anyway, so Skylar, that's who I mentioned is Walter's wife. Skylar, of course, is very perceptive and smart, and she is suspicious of Walter's recent activity because up until now he's just been a regular chemistry teacher. He has a regular life, but now he's doing these suspicious things with a former student of all people. All this stuff is a little bit weird. What's he really up to? And she does not come close to figuring out that it's a mobile meth lab, but she does think that she is getting cheated on because she actually saw Ollie and she's like, no way is Walter cheating on me with that person in the desert. So that's a big drama because now Walter has to be like, no, I'm not cheating on you, but he can't say what he was really doing. And maybe it would be better if she did think that he was cheating on her. It's like a moral problem that goes forward through the episodes. Not much else happens in this episode. You might be wondering why it's called Cats in the Bag. Well, Skylar is actually represented thematically by cats and kitty paws. Whenever there are kitty paws anywhere, that means that Skylar has been there. You may also realize this is a week after Inauguration Day. President Barack Obama is famous for loving cats. So, cats in the bag, that's kind of like Barack Obama in the White House. Okay, moving forward to episode three. There are 7 episodes in this season, so the season does go a little bit fast. The other ones are longer though. Next is and the bags in the river. Yup, the cat's in the bag and the bags in the river. And now we're in February. Following an argument with Jesse, Walter is left to deal with Crazy Eight alone. After Marie raises concerns that Walt Jr. is smoking cannabis, Hank shows him the dangers of drug use. Okay, we've got a few new characters. We've got Marie, we've got Hank, and we've got Crazy Eight. So I'm just going to say right now, this is Marie. This is a little photo of her. She has brown hair and brown eyes, and her signature color is black. As you can see, she's always wearing black. Um, So the argument with Jesse actually does have to do with Crazy 8. Crazy 8 was kind of in last episode, he was teased, but Crazy 8 is actually a really big deal. He's a really big drug dealer. He's called Crazy 8 because one, he has really struggled with mental illness all his life. He actually does suffer from bipolar disorder, which doesn't make him crazy, but like he identifies with the word crazy with a K because his real name is Chrissy. His real name is Chrissy, so he like goes by Crazy because he's like, whatever, everybody thought I was crazy because of my mental health struggles, but I'm going to own it. And he's called 8 because he has killed 8 people with um sorry, it's so hard to remember. We're so back in the seasons, so it's been so long. He's called Crazy 8 because he's killed 8 people with lead. He loves to kill people with lead, but he's only done it 8 times. Um, because he's like the type of person where like he only gets like his like lackeys to kill people. And he's really taken notice of the fact that Walter and Jesse are rising. They took over Ollie's operation, and Crazy Eight is like you need to stop, guys. You guys are crazy. So, um, like maybe it was about to become Crazy 10, like if things really escalated too far, but it thankfully it doesn't. Um, Walter and Jesse argue about how to deal with this. Jesse's like, I don't want to be a part of this situation. I don't know if this is the life for me. And Walter's like, well, what about your dad? Like, your dad died trying to do this. Don't you want to help me? Do you want my son to be without a father as well? So, really, like a gaslighting thing going on between them. Already a very negative relationship between these two. Um, But when Jesse leaves, Walter has to deal with Crazy Eight alone, which thankfully doesn't go too bad. Walter is actually a master of seduction, so he's like Crazy Eight, like let's calm down. And Crazy Eight is like, okay. And then Crazy Eight leaves, and now actually they're working for Crazy Eight. The deal is that Walter and Jesse are working for Crazy Eight, which will get them into trouble in the future, but for right now they're okay. And now Marie raises concerns that Walt Jr. is smoking cannabis. Who's Marie? I thought that the the mother of Walter Jr. was Skylar. Well, Marie is actually Skylar's sister. So Marie is Walter Jr.'s aunt, and she caught him. By the way, Walter Jr. is like he's like 13. She caught Walter Jr. smoking cannabis, which is actually like a fancy word for marijuana. So he is smoking marijuana, and Hank, who is Marie's husband, shows him the dangers of drug use. And this is really ironic. We flash between these two plot lines where Hank is like, "You shouldn't smoke cannabis," but then it will cut to Crazy Eight being like, "I need more meth right now. I need meth for my operation," and then Walter's like, "Okay." So like it's like that's like kind of the point of the episode. The bags in the river, of course, refers to how the White House is an evil place. The bag is in the river. If a cat is in a bag and then the bag is in the river, then that means that the cat is drowning with the bag in the river. They're both drowning together. Just like how Barack Obama, though he might have seemed promising at first, did not fulfill any meaningful change within global politics that aided anyone disprivileged, really. So that's the commentary. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying that's the commentary. Um, and Marie, I mean, sorry, I sorry. Hank is actually a cop, which is drama because like they're best friends. Walter and Hank are actually best friends, and they go to the mall every weekend. But Walter had to cancel going to the mall because Hank can't know that Walter is a drug dealer. So things are really heating up, and things are going to heat up even more in the next episode. Cancer Man. Yes, this episode only aired 6 days later. They couldn't even wait a week anymore. But oh my god, a new character, Dia. Dia becomes suspicious of a new drug kingpin. Walt reveals that he has cancer to Marie and Hank. Elsewhere, Jesse visits his estranged family. So when Jesse left in and the bags and the river, he actually went to see his estranged family. He hasn't seen them since he was like 6, and he's like, guys, like, I please take me in, please take me in. Ultimately, in this episode, we do learn a little bit more about him, but ultimately, his family is like, no, like, we're not going to bring you in. Which makes Jesse at the end of the episode return back to Walter and be like, Walter, I'm in. Like, this is what really seals Jesse in as his partner. So the Dia is actually a woman that is really powerful in the government. That's why her name is so weird. She is investigating drugs in Albuquerque, which is where the show takes place. And the Dia is like, things are getting weird. It seems like there's probably a new drug kingpin in the area. Um, and this is just like setup. Nothing really happens with that, but we do need to watch out for the Dia in the future because she is one mean woman. And then of course there is Walter revealing that he has cancer to Marie and Hank. This is kind of to get Hank off his back more than anything. Hank has been very suspicious of him because they have not been going to the mall together, and this is Walter being like, guys, I have cancer. That's why I'm not going to the mall. Next, of course, oh, and then of course, Hank calls him Cancer Man. Next, of course, is gray matter. And we're not talking Ben 10 here because Walter and Skylar attend a former colleague's party while Jesse tries to free himself from the drugs. And Skylar organizes an intervention for Walt. So we're getting kind of late into the season now. This is kind of an escalation of a lot of ideas that we've already gone through. So I'm going to start here. We saw in the last episode Jesse has decided to commit to being a drug dealer, but he's actually also a drug addict, and he doesn't want to be a drug addict anymore. It's getting in the way of his life, so he's trying to free himself from the drugs. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. But I'll talk about that in a second. So Walter and Skylar attend a former colleague's party. They actually went to college together in the same city. They went to college together in a small city called um actually it's a big city. They went to New York City, a New York City college. Um and at this party things get a little bit tense. Of course, Walter is now suffering some physical effects from his chemotherapy, which is natural. It's all natural, but it does mean that he, of course, has to be a little bit more open about it. So when they go to see this colleague, there's drama because the colleague is like, "Do you have cancer?" or whatever, and Walter's like, "Yes." That's really insensitive to ask it like that. And it actually escalates to Walter, who's been under a lot of stress because Crazy 8 wants a lot of drugs, and he wasn't even supposed to go to this party because he has drugs to make. Like, and Jesse is still kind of like loopy loo. Like, it's a lot of bad stuff is happening in his life, so he's taking out the stress, and he actually strikes Skylar across the face with like a like a fire tong. He like one of those things that you stoke a fire with. He grabs one and he hits her across the face with it. Um, because he's so stressed and he's never done anything like that before. No, there's never been any problems like that in their marriage. It is deeply shocking to Skylar, but also to Walter. It's dark, and this is when I really want to talk about their names. So they obviously their names both end in ER, but Skylar has sky. She is the open sky. She is truth. She is honesty. She is love. And Walter, wall. He's a wall in front of the sky. He's blocking that view. Yeah. Um. Oh, also, this colleague has a little cat, and Skylar's like, "Oh, I love this cat," and Walter accidentally steps on his paw. Yeah, not good. So Skylar organizes an intervention for him. She's like, Walter, you have to change. You have to change. You have to stop all this gray matter. It used to be so black and white with us, but everything's a problem and it's all just gray matter. And he's like, I'm sorry, Skylar. I can't tell you what's going on in my life. He admits that there's a little bit more than just the cancer stuff, but he obviously can't open up about the truth of the situation. And it truly is starting to take a deeper toll on their relationship. You may also be realizing that Leap Day is coming up. That is very relevant. Leap Day only happens once every 4 years, just like a presidential election. And it did happen this year because this year is a multiple of four, which means that it is a leap year here on the planet Earth. Um, so they're actually really stressed because of the leap year coming up. But the next episode, the penultimate episode of the season, is Crazy Handful of Nothing. Yup. So before we even like really get into anything going on here, I just want to say, um, this like the crazy it does have to do with Crazy Eight. Yup, Crazy Eight is like a big bad guy this season. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. The side effects of chemotherapy begin to plague Walt, who is also cooking meth again, and Jesse's friend Skinny Pete introduces him to a distributor named Tuco, but things go awry and Jesse ends up dead. Yes. And Jesse ends up dead. But we'll get there. First, we'll start here. So it is March. Leap Day has passed. Leap Day has passed. But there's nothing really to say. Like, the side effects are plaguing him. Like, it's just happening. But Jesse's friend Skinny Pete, all I'm going to say is Skinny Pete is also working for Crazy Eight. Jesse and Skinny Pete are recent friends after they met because they both do stuff for Crazy Eight. And Tuco also works for Crazy Eight. So this is like a whole Crazy Eight scheme. The way that things go awry is that Skinny Pete is like Tuco is like a really hard guy to deal with. He's really nice. Like it's thinking that he's really nice, but he also has he has like a fear element to him because he kills people on accident all the time. And Jesse's like, whatever, like that's not going to happen to me. I don't even see how that would happen to me, especially if he's nice. So he goes over to Tuco's house and he's like, Tuco, I need your help. Like, I'm trying to quit drugs, and you're a drug distributor, so maybe you can help me figure that out. Like, if you distribute drugs, like, what's your relationship to them personally? Like, can you help me with this? And Tuco is like, I really can't help you, but you should drink some of this wine that I got. I have this special wine for guests. Turns out it's the wrong wine for guests, and he accidentally kills Jesse with poison wine. This happens about halfway through the episode, and Walter is immediately called by Tuco, has a really shaky voice, and he's like, Walter, your partner Jesse was just killing me with poison wine on accident. Walter is extremely upset. He is extremely angry, and he immediately goes over to Tuco's house and he smashes the wine and smashes the wine bottle over Tuco's head. And he's like, you're crazy and evil. Why would you kill my student, my friend, my brother, my son? Like it gets a little bit weird. Like their relationship, like we did not know before now that this is how he saw Jesse. But this is actually what Jesse looks like as he's falling over and dying from wine poisoning. Um, Sorry for the pause. I had to think for a second. I had to like catch my breath. A lot of talking. But so of course Tuco is dead. Yes, in fact Tuco is dead. Walter did in fact kill him, and that's when Skinny Pete reveals himself and he's like, "Stop, stop, stop. I don't want Tuco to die. You have to stop because I I have necromancy spell. I can revive Jesse. I came here with my spell because I'm a witch and I can heal Jesse." And Walter's like, why didn't you do that earlier? And then Skinny Pete is like, well, I had to wait for Tuco to leave, but you just killed him. And it's like, oh my god, because the necromancy spell only works on people who Skinny Pete is friends with, and Skinny Pete wasn't friends with Tuco. Skinny Pete just knew Tuco. So Tuco is dead permanently, but Jesse does get revived with the necromancy spell, and Walter's friendship to Jesse also is a big part of that because now Jesse actually has super strength because Walter's like love and appreciation for Jesse imbued him with super strength, which kind of for now really solidifies their bond. They really like each other now, and Jesse is really thankful that now he not only was revived, but he also has super strength. However, this is definitely bad because Tuco is a big part of Crazy Eight's little like thing. So, unfortunately, now for the season finale, they realize that Crazy Eight is going to be on their tail, and the season finale is called a no rough stuff type of deal. And you might be like, why is this the same photo but with different lighting? This is from a flashback. They flashback to it. So Walter accepts his new identity as a drug dealer after a PTA meeting. Elsewhere, Jesse decides to put his aunt's house on the market, and Skylar is the recipient of a baby shower. So you might be like, what's with the Crazy Eight stuff? I thought the Crazy Eight was like a big bad guy. Why isn't he mentioned here? He is in little ways that you can't tell. hmm So at the PTA meeting, you might be like, oh, like it's a PTA meeting because Walter he has a son, but no, it's because he's still a teacher. Don't forget he's a teacher. So it's like he has to meet with the parents of a one of his students, and he has a student named Little Eight, and he's just like, Little Eight, like you're my favorite student, but guess who his dad is? Yeah, it's Crazy Eight. So Crazy Eight comes in, and it's really tense because it's not just the two of them. There's like another teacher there, and there's also Crazy Eight's wife, Julie. So it's Crazy Eight, Julie, Walter, and this other teacher. And Crazy Eight and Walter are obviously staring down each other because Crazy Eight's been trying to find Walter because Walter killed Tuco with the bottle. And it's a lot of drama. Crazy Eight is ready to become Crazy Nine tonight. But thankfully, Walter is actually able to be pretty bold. He's kind of intimidating. Crazy Eight is intimidated by how bold and not nervous Walter is at this PTA meeting. He's like, yeah, Little Eight is doing great. He loves me as a teacher. So I'm so glad that I get to be his teacher in chemistry in high school. And if I died, he would hate that. And the only thing that Crazy Eight loves more than himself is his son. So Crazy Eight is like, now I don't know if I want to kill Walter. And Walter accepts his new identity as a drug dealer because he's like, that was so crafty of me. I also killed that Tuco guy, and I don't even like care about it. Like he's doing good. So he's like feeling good about it. But then at the same time, Jesse is deciding to put his aunt's house on the market. Yup. You might notice like Jesse is an aunt, and Marie is actually Walter Jr.'s aunt. This is related because Jesse's aunt's name is Maria, and Maria is a parallel character to Marie. Um, Jesse deciding to put Maria's house on the market is a parallel to a different plotline that happens in this episode, in which Hank decides to um sell some of Marie's black clothes. And like we mentioned earlier, Marie loves the color black. She loves to wear black clothes. So she's like, you can't sell my black clothes. And he's like, I need to for something at the police station. And she can't handle it. They have a huge fight. Um, but this all, of course, leads up to Skylar having a baby shower because guess what? She is pregnant. Cheer! 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 Everybody cheer! It's super exciting. She is, in fact, pregnant with a baby boy. Yes. Yes. Hallelujah. So that's exciting. But this baby shower does not go the way that it's planned. So Skylar invites all her friends, of which she has many. Of course, Walter is there. Of course, Maria's there. Everybody's there. But you know who else is there? You guessed it, Crazy Eight. It turns out that Little Eight is actually one of Skylar's students as well. Skylar teaches, sorry, I'm trying to remember. Oh my God, this show came out in 2008, so I don't like remember every little detail. Skylar, oh, I can't believe I didn't remember this. Skylar teaches fencing. So Skylar teaches fencing to Little Eight, and she invites Crazy 8 over because they're actually friends. And Walter and Walter and Crazy 8 obviously had this confrontation earlier in the day, but they're pretty chill now from Crazy 8's perspective. However, Walter is like, Crazy 8, please come back to talk to me in this room that I want to talk to you in. And then in that room, he uses a little metal stoker thing, the one that he struck Skylar with, to stab Crazy 8 through the heart and kill him in the nursery that is being built for the new baby. And this is very thematic because he did strike Skylar with that as a way to take out his stress. And he was good with Crazy 8. Crazy 8 wasn't going to kill him anymore. However, he now has taken the opportunity to kill Crazy 8 to move up more into the drug ladder to get that serum, if you remember. And Skylar, and the baby, its nursery is now painted with the blood of Crazy 8, which is just representative of the fact that the longer that Walter does this, the more he is going to have he's like building a new foundation for his life. This new baby, its life, its foundation of life is now this like murder and drug stuff, and that is not good for a baby. So that's the drama here. This is really like the first season really is about Walter going down this negative past. He really, um, not past, path. He really is like, this is about him like Jesse being indoctrinated into being his partner and him sort of indoctrinating himself because he secretly loves the power. Um, so that is season one. There are five seasons, so everybody get excited for season two, which we're going to talk about right now. It's 13 episodes, so it's a little bit longer. And all I'm going to say is that things definitely do get crazier. There's some more new main characters. You may also be realizing that this is coming out a year later, a year after inauguration year. So this is like a lot of crazy stuff truly is happening in the Breaking Bad world. As you can see from the image for season two, they have new hats that they wear this season. Like there's these awesome update designs. I'm so excited to get into it. First, I'm gonna get a sip of water. So everybody, drink some water. Don't forget to hydrate, everybody. Don't forget to hydrate. Okay, let's really get into season two. Um, Season two it has a higher production value. It gets really good. So let's get right into it. I'm not going to try to make this video like 5 hours long. Like let's really try to get through this. So next is 7:37, which is a time on a clock. Um, Walt and Jesse are trying to work out a way of ending their. Sorry, I paused. Walt and Jesse are trying to work out a way of ending their partnership with Tuco. Elsewhere, Hank tries to mend fences between Marie and Skylar. So, um, I think I'm going to start out here. Hank tries to mend fences between Marie and Skylar. So Marie and Skylar, like, their households are actually right next to each other, and the fence has broken down, which is a problem because Marie has dogs, and Skylar literally hates dogs. Skylar actually, when she was younger, was known to kill dogs, which is revealed in this episode. So Marie is like, I don't want that effing woman to kill my dog, and Skylar is like, meow, I don't know, maybe I'll do it. So it's like, oh my god, and Hank needs to build a fence really quickly, but that's when they discover Tuco's body. Tuco's body has been like fully discovered. People now know that he's dead. He was supposed to be buried out in the desert, but Walter didn't do it right on his own. So now Walter and Jesse are trying to figure out a way to end their partnership, metaphorical partnership, the partnership that they have with Tuco's death. Like they don't want anybody to figure out that they were working with Tuco or that they were going to work with Tuco or that they killed Tuco. Um, And part of that, thankfully, is the fact that Hank is now building a fence, so he's busy, so he's not investigating, and they are able to actually create, they're able to create fake versions of themselves that they can like put places so that people think that they didn't kill Tuco. It sounds like that doesn't make sense, but it does when you watch the episode. It's really good. It's also been a year because the air dates are identical to the in-universe date, so it has been a year. Um, Not much has happened the last year though. Like it's been a pretty quiet year, so that's good. 7:37 is actually the time of day that both the fence broke and Tuco's body was found. It was at the exact same time. And this show loves coincidences, so like these things happening at the same time, it's a coincidence. And it's also like they're like the last season really ended with Walter being on top, but now they're sort of bringing him back down for season 2 episode 1. It's like he because he made a mistake with the Tuco thing, and it's like he still has a lot to learn, and he's still an underdog in this business. It's like okay, like now we can root for him a little bit more, I guess, because trust me, you are supposed to. Next is Grilled. This is my favorite episode so far. I love it. Um um okay, sorry. The next episode is Grilled. I love this episode. It's the description is with Walt and Jesse kidnapped and being held captive by a crazed Tuco, Marie and Hank try to comfort Skylar over Walt's disappearance. Later, Hank pays a visit to Mrs. Pinkman. So a lot happens in this episode. You could say this really is a turning point in the series. So Grilled is actually because this episode takes place over. There are three cookouts in this episode. There are three big grill parties. So Walt and Jesse are being kidnapped and held by crazed Tuco. You might be like, didn't you say that Tuco was killed? And wasn't last episode about Tuco being killed? Well, yes. However, I think it is foreshadowed at the end of this episode. But Tuco, just like Jesse, was revived and brought back to life. So there's somebody out there who's a good enough friend with Tuco that he could come back to life over a year after his death. Um, and when Tuco it was brought back to life, he immediately kidnaps Walter and Jesse because he knows that these are the people who led to his death. He also would kidnap Skinny Pete, but we do actually see Skinny Pete slip away into a crack in the wall because he's so skinny. Um, oh, ooh, um, well, let's look at some photos here. So this is Walter and Jesse stressed out because they got kidnapped. This is them looking at Tuco, seeing him approach them, and they're like, "What the heck? He's alive." This is see, pregnant. This is Skylar and Marie hanging up some missing posters. Marie's looking amazing as always. And you can see she's got some black clothes again, but she's also now incorporating a new color, purple, into her wardrobe. So basically, this this is awesome so far. This is a great episode. Let's get back into the description. So Skylar is of course upset because Walter has disappeared for several days because Tuco kidnapped him and Jesse. But that's not the only person who went missing because there's also Jesse. Jesse's last name is actually Pinkman, and he obviously has a very strained relationship with his family, as we know, but he also is missing, and his family does still talk to him occasionally. But because he didn't talk to them this week, they went to his house, tried to see him, but they found his house completely empty. And they were like, oh my God, we think that he's missing. So they had to call Hank. And this is like kind of drama because it's like how are they going to get out of this? Um, like Skylar's vaguely aware of the fact that Walter and Jesse like both hang out and stuff. So it's like, okay, so like they're both missing at the same time. What's going on right now? What are they really doing? And Skylar's remembering that at the end of last season, Walter did in fact admit that there might be a little bit more going on that he just can't talk about. And she's like, "Oh no, what's happening? I'm scared. Um, I'm scared that this is like some secret that I should have been asking more about." She's very frightened by the situation. Meanwhile, there is actually a subplot in this episode about Marie baking a cake. She bakes a cake for Skylar, but she gets the ingredients wrong. She puts in salt instead of sugar. She's like, "Oh my God." She should start all over. This is kind of like a follow up on them having to mend fences. Um, because now she's trying to metaphorically mend fences with Skylar by making her this cake, but she just can't get it quite right, which is like symbolic of their relationship. You know, cats and dogs are always fighting. And you also might be like, I thought you said that there was like three cookouts. Well, the cake, they eat the cake outside with a grill. Tuco has a cookout, and the Pinkmans are always having one every night. So don't worry, there are three. Next episode is called Bit by a Dead Bee, which we'll talk about that title soon. Walt and Jesse's respective financial situations start to suffer when they try to cover their tracks. Hold on, we'll talk about this the second part after, but um so they do in fact escape. I kind of forgot to mention it in this one. I got so into the grill parties, I didn't even mention it. But they do in fact escape Tuco, and he is dead now again. Hopefully for good this time. They decided to dissolve his body with acid. So hopefully, I mean, I don't think that like a dissolved body can really come back. So he should be dead now for good. Um, but anyway, they are now trying to cover their tracks with this whole situation. They're trying to figure out like a certain lies to get themselves out of um like people are asking questions. They're trying to figure out lies. And to do that, they're spending a lot of money, which means that they are going to, of course, need to get back into the drug business as soon as possible. But unfortunately, the Dia is back, and she gets a break in the meth investigation that could lead agents straight to Walt and Jesse. I know. It's really scary. Here we learn a little bit more about the Dia. She is a very cold woman. Her name, of course, is an acronym, the Dead Bee. Day, dead. That's the first word in Dia. She's known as the Dead Beep Beep. Like, we don't know the last two yet. Okay, sorry. I just had to check Instagram quickly. Anyway, um, so this is bad because now the Dia is sending some agents towards Walt and Jesse's operation, which they did have to halt for a while, but now they're doing it again. So it's like they don't even know this is happening, but they could totally get caught. They could totally get bit by a dead bee. So hopefully they don't. So let's see what happens next. Next is Down. This is a pretty exciting episode. Walt and Jesse appear to be in the clear, but now face trouble on their respective home fronts. Walt finds it difficult to reconnect with Skylar and the rest of his family, while Jesse's parents kick him out of their house. Okay, well, we don't know it says house, so let's see. Oh, it does say house. It says house right here. Jesse's parents kick him out of their house. So, okay, so I know I said that Jesse doesn't live with his parents, and he doesn't, but actually his name is on the deed. He's a little bit older now. He's in his 20s, so his name was on the deed. Um, so now they like took White out and they like got his name off the deeds. They're like, it's not even your house anymore, and that really breaks his heart. Um, However, after being kidnapped, after being a killer multiple times, and really having this crazy life now, Walter really does find it difficult to be a part of his family, especially since Skylar is really like, what did you do? What happened? How were you gone for so long? What is your secret? Um, and about the Dia, we still don't really have like a follow through on that. It's sort of brewing in the background still. There's still not a climax on the Dia yet. But this episode actually does really move the plot forward because this is actually the episode where Walter admits that he's been doing shady stuff to Skylar. He's like, I'm sorry, I've been doing it for our family. I have been a meth kingpin in Albuquerque for a year. And she's like, WTF? And he's like, yeah, sorry for keeping it from you, but it's true, it's what I've been doing. And then she's like, well, I can't live with you, I can't do this. But then he's like, then he gaslights her. He's like, really? You really want to break up with me? Because we have a son in our house and a son on the way. And uh, what would they think about that? And also, I love you. And also, I'm doing it for our family and I'm doing it for me because I have a serum. And I hate doing this. I hate it, but it's a sacrifice for our family. I hate it, but it's a sacrifice for our family. And she's like, fine, whatever. I'll think about it. And that's where they leave things off. She'll think about it. Next episode is Breakage. Um, Sorry, I'm just reading the description. I'm thinking about how sad this episode is. But as tensions continue to mount in the White household, Hank suffers from the aftermath of his encounter with Tuco. Oh, sorry, I saw the name Tuco and I got scared that I forgot something about him coming back again, but he doesn't. Um, Elsie, El, elsewhere, Jesse puts a crew together in order to get their product out on the streets. So this is really important. Um, like I said, it's been a slow year. So for oh, oh, sorry. So it's been a slow year. So like this past year, they've not really been doing that much with the drug stuff, honestly. But now they're really like let's push this out on the streets. Like let's really start our business, which would be heartwarming if it wasn't a drug business. And um, of course, things are really like there's tension in the White household because of course, unfortunately, Skylar and Walter are fighting because Skylar's found out that Walter is a drug man, and I'm also now realizing that this is Hank suffers from the aftermath of his encounter with Tuco. I sort of mix up Hank and Walter. When they call Walter Walt, I kind of mentally just read Hank. They're kind of the same name to me, so I didn't read that at first, but yes, in this episode we get a reveal that actually Hank and Tuco used to be best friends. They used to know each other very closely. So Tuco being dead twice, like that's really taking a toll on him psychologically. This is when we learn that actually over the past year, Hank's friendship with Tuco has slowly been wafting towards Tuco's dead body in the desert to the point where now became revived, but now that can't happen anymore, and Hank is physically suffering for that because the way that friendship works in this universe is that when you're friends with someone, if they die, then you hurt physically, even if you don't know that they're dead. And since Tuco is dead forever, Hank is really struggling physically, um, that is relevant. That is relevant. So we'll get to that. But that's what's happening so far. Next is Peekaboo, and you might be like, is this an episode where the baby is born? And all I'm gonna say is yes. But next is with Walt returning to work. Oh, Walt returns to work, but things don't go as smoothly as he'd like when Skinny Pete gets ripped off by a drug addicted couple. Meanwhile, Skylar thanks Gretchen for paying for Walt's treatment. Oh yeah, so they Remember that friend, that old colleague that they went to visit that time? That's actually Gretchen. And because Walter is getting some treatment, obviously, for his cancer, Gretchen has agreed to pay a little bit for that, which is very nice of her. As we can see from this image here, the baby has been born. They're holding the baby together. They are a loving family. In this episode, the baby's birth really unites them. They're like, okay, like we really can't we like can't be fighting. We can't have this struggle. Skylar obviously really does not like that Walter is in this business, but she has decided that she is going to try to convince him to stay out of it rather than trying to convince him, trying to convince the police to arrest him and break up their family. So that's kind of a stressful situation for her to be in. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I guess it would depend on who I was married to. If they were really cool, I probably wouldn't want to tell the police, but if they weren't that cool, like I'd like maybe. It also kind of depends on who they're hurting. I would have to ask some questions, but I don't think I'd be ready for the answers. I think Skylar feels the same way, which is why she doesn't ask questions. Yup. But anyway, Skinny Pete unfortunately does get ripped off by a drug addicted couple, which is sad because, as we know, Walter and Jesse are now putting their drugs out on the streets, but now Skinny Pete is facing a negative repercussion of that somehow. And that really hurts Walter because Walter loves Jesse, and Skinny Pete is Jesse's friend. And Skinny Pete revived Jesse with necromancy, so it's getting complicated, and it's very unfortunate. Um, but it is interesting that Walter tries so hard to help out Skinny Pete when ultimately Skinny Pete is like he's kind of like not a part of Walter's life. It's interesting that he would do that, don't you think? Yeah, it's a kind of like humanizing episode for him. Um, Also, Hank now, because he's suffering so much from the aftermath of his encounter with Tuco, there is now little hints in this episode that Hank is suffering so much because Tuco was so important to him that he has been seeking some medical treatment. Yep, yep. Wow, you might be like, who's this? Well, this episode is called Negro y Azul, which is Spanish. Yup, that's Spanish. Okay. Jesse's new reputation as a killer means he and Walt are having no trouble collecting payment. Yep. So the duo discussed expanding into new territories. Meanwhile, Hank is struggling to fit in. And what else is happening? Skylar spies a new job opportunity. This episode is a very fun episode. Um, Of course, Negro y Azul means black and blue. So things like it's like a bruise, but it's like a bruise in Spanish. And you might be like, why is it Spanish? Well, because there's a new Spanish speaking dub of the show that was coming out and they wanted to celebrate it. So, like, they were like, yes, we're so excited. The Spanish speaking dub is coming out. So they wanted to celebrate it like that. This episode was going to be called Black and Blue, but they changed it. Anyway, so this obviously you're like, who's this awesome person? Well, this is Skylar's new boss. This is Skylar's new boss, and she is going to help Skylar with her new job as drum roll, a drug secretary. She's going to be taking notes. She's like a treasurer for like Walter's business now. She's like, I want to have at least a little part in this so I can like really like keep track. Like she's spying a new job opportunity, but like it's specifically using the word spying because she wants to also spy on Walter to make sure that he's not killing people, like he's not doing anything bad because she has some suspicions, but she's afraid to ask him about it. She has to learn about it for herself because if she asked him and then he lied, that would hurt more than seeing him do it in the first place. Anyway, so Jesse, of course, has a new reputation as a killer. Jesse is young and awesome. Everybody thinks that he's hot. So everybody's like, oh my God, did you hear about that hot guy who like totally killed that other guy named Tuco? Um, like, and also Crazy 8, like more like Crazy -8 because he's dead. Cut that out. So everybody like loves Jesse now because Jesse's the one who's like really doing the drug selling, and that's great. So now they're getting lots of money, but they're not repaying Gretchen. Just gonna say it, they do not repay Gretchen. It's awful. It's a mean thing that they do. Notice how Walter really wanted to stick out a limb for Skinny Pete, but not for Gretchen. What's the difference between Skinny Pete and Gretchen, man and woman? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Hank is struggling to fit in because he is facing so much physical pain from Tuco's death. He's so sad about Tuco dying, but he's in like extreme physical agony to the point where now Skylar is getting a little bit of a hint of it, and she's like, "This is really bad, but maybe we can use some of our money. I'm the treasurer now, like maybe I can do something about that." So in this episode, she actually, after she becomes the treasurer, she starts to take money away from the drug business to slip it to Marie under the fence. Yup, under the fence. And then Marie gives it to Hank and is like, "I got you this money." And then Hank goes to the doctor to get treatment for his physical pain from Tuco's death. Yup. Next is Better Call Saul. Yup. I know a lot of fans have been waiting for this episode. This is an iconic episode. Um, Ooh, okay. Badger is finally getting mentioned. Badger's just like a little side character. He's just like a little drug guy. He doesn't really matter that much. But when Badger gets in trouble with the law, Walt and Jesse seek advice from a shady attorney. Yup. Meanwhile, the DIA agents believe they have finally caught up with Heisenberg. Heisenberg is like the drug lord name that Walter and Jesse are going under. Yeah. So, two crazy things happening right here. But first of all, Badger is just like one of their little guys that they used to sell drugs, and the shady attorney, Saul. Yup. This episode and this character is actually a collaboration with another show called Better Call Saul, which was airing around the same time. These two shows are made by the same people, actually, so they wanted to cross over the worlds. So Saul, who is actually, his real name is Jimmy McGill. He is an attorney who deals with drug people, and he's like a little bit really shady, but he always gets results, even if it goes through like bad means. He's always got a scheme. He's always got something up his sleeve. Um, and he has friends named Ernie and Anita and Viola, and he's got a crazy life. He's got a crazy whole show. So if you want to see me recap that show, leave a comment. But anyway, this is just an introduction to his character. It's just like a crossover thing. It's basically just fan service. He does appear in the show more, but he's not a very relevant character. Um, so like he just helps out Badger. The real thing in this episode is just this like rising conflict where the Dia is now finally catching up to Jesse and Walter, and it's getting really bad. Something bad is going to happen with that soon. So next is 4 Days Out. Yup. And you might be like 4 days. 4 days ago was April 31st. What happened 4 days ago on April 31st? Well, we're gonna find out. Um, Walt undergoes scans after becoming convinced that his health is deteriorating. Meanwhile, Jesse's relationship with Jane is put on hold when he and Walt head into the desert for a marathon meth cooking thing. Okay, so here's what it really is. The 4 days out is the 4 days that they were out in the desert. Yup. So you might be like, who the F is Jane? And all I'm going to say is that she is not a fashion witch. Yeah, but what she is actually, um, it turns out that this entire time, Jesse has had a girlfriend named Jane that we've just never seen. And it actually turns out that they've known each other since they were born. They were actually born at this in the same hospital room on the same day. And they've been friends since then, and they started dating. They were relatively young, but Jesse never talks to her. They actually currently are only talking to each other one time a year, and that gets broken in this episode because when their relationship gets put on hold, it's because they need to do this like marathon meth cooking thing in the desert when it's the time of year where they're supposed to meet up, which is April 31st. So it is it's like it's sad for Jane. Jane is like, is he finally leaving me? But Jesse decides in the desert, he's like, no, I'm going to stick it out with Jane. We're going to stay together. I love Jane. I've decided we're no longer going to be seeing each other only once a year. Now I want her in my life permanently. So now Jane is being introduced as a character, basically. So next is over. Um, Walt and Hank get into a heated argument at a party, as you can see here. Skylar opens up to her boss, which, oh my god, where is she? Yup, her boss. Yup, opening up to her boss. Um, and Jane tries to hide her relationship with Jesse from her father. So, this episode is really good. It came out on May 10th, 2009. If you were there on May 10th, 2009, drop a comment. But I don't know which one to talk about first. I guess I'll talk about the Jane one first because I just talked about Jane and Jesse. So obviously now they're dating permanently now, like they're staying together, but part of the reason why they couldn't be together is actually because Jesse is transgender and Jane's father doesn't approve of that. And that's always been sort of conflict between them because Jesse is like, I'm uncomfortable with the fact that this is drama in our relationship when I purposefully only surround myself with people who are accepting of my gender identity and gender journey. And Jane is like, I understand that, but I rely on my father financially, and also he's the only person I have in my life other than you. I don't think that I can give him up. So that's always been sort of a point of drama between the two of them, and they're kind of understanding about it, but both of them kind of resents the other for the position that they're put in because of it. So now that they're actually officially together again, Jane, instead of really like saying like, Father, I am with Jesse, she's trying to completely hide it, which like that's no good, but she's trying to hide it. Meanwhile, of course, Skylar's opening up to her boss. And as we all know, Skylar's boss, that awesome black-haired woman, is um is the only person really that Skylar interacts with who knows that Walter is like a drug person because Skylar's working with that woman as a treasurer. So she's really opening up about a lot of her feelings and her fears, and it's not just about the drug stuff, it's kind of just about everything. Walter's not like a great husband, and he never has been, and maybe there were good moments, but it's just like the family is what's most important now, and she wishes that her relationship with Walter could be as important as her family, but it's not. It's the family structure that's keeping their relationship together. And this black-haired woman is like, I got a divorce recently. Man, that's kind of like it's like wow. Um, Meanwhile, these two are arguing because neither of them can open up. Neither of them can open up. They both have relationship drama that they've honestly been at the center of, and they cannot possibly deal with it together. Like with their wives, they can't talk to their wives about it. So it's kind of a parallel. While Skylar is able to open up to her boss, um, these two, they can't open up to each other. They can't open up to everyone, so they're fighting about literally nothing. Um, so that's honestly tragic. This episode also does take place on Cinco de Mayo. It takes place 5 days before this, so that's exciting for everybody who celebrates. Next episode, we're getting close to the end of the season. There are 3 episodes left. Next is Mandala. Um, oh my God, guess who's back, everybody? Sorry, I had to take a break for a second so my brain could work properly. But guess who's back? It's Saul! Oh my God! It's Saul! So Saul proposes a new business partner for Walt and Jesse. Meanwhile, Skylar makes a shocking discovery at work, and Jesse opens up, telling recovering addict Jane what he does for a living. Lots of crazy stuff happening. And it's really late into the season, but a lot of great plot developments. So we'll start here. This doesn't go very far in this episode. We'll see what character this is, but a new main character is being introduced really soon, and that is a new business partner. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Meanwhile, Jesse telling Jane what he does for a living is it's emotional. They're really trying to make their relationship work together. However, it is pretty tragic that she is a recovering addict just like him. You might be like, that's really like, why does that matter? It's because he makes drugs and he's a drug dealer who's a recovering addict, and she's also a recovering addict and she's dating him like like they could they could relapse together, unfortunately. So like they're afraid that that's going to happen now, but they also love each other, so it's like what's going to happen there. Meanwhile, of course, Skylar makes a shocking discovery at work, and you might remember she went to work for Walter because she wanted to see if she could make any discoveries about his life, and she did. She heard about Crazy Eight, and she doesn't know anything for certain, but she knows that there's somebody named Crazy Eight who Walter was working for, and she realizes who it is. She realizes that it's that person who was at their house for the baby shower, and she remembers that Walter and Crazy Eight went into the nursery together, and she remembers that she didn't see Crazy Eight since then, and she remembers that that is around the time that Crazy Eight went missing. So she assumes, rightfully, that Walter killed Crazy Eight and didn't tell her. So we'll see where that goes very soon. Next is Phoenix, and you might remember that Phoenix rise from the ashes. And there's a lot of resurrection in this show. You might be like, oh God, is another person being resurrected? Well, we'll see. The Whites welcome a new addition. Walter Jr. launches a new website. Jesse's addiction begins to get out of control. And Jane and Jesse's relationship causes friction with both Walt and Donald. And you might be like, who in the sea is Donald? That's just Jane's dad. Don't worry, that's just Jane's dad. But the Whites welcome a new addition. You should know what this is. It's a little cat. Oh, they got a cat finally. Skylar's been wanting one for so long. And after realizing that Walter probably killed somebody in their home, she's like, whatever. If he can do that selfish thing, I can selfishly get a little cat. And it's a little gray cat. And its name is Phoenix. And it's so beautiful. And she loves Phoenix, the gray cat. Anyway, Walter Jr. is launching a new website, and this is really hype. This is awesome. This is actually a school newspaper because he's a news reporter and he loves his school. It's called the Blue and Gold, and he runs it with his friend named Forsyth. That maybe there's a little bit something going on between them, but that's all background stuff. That's all background stuff. Unfortunately, it is true that Jesse's addiction begins to get out of control. It is really sad. It is very unfortunate. Just like it was mentioned here, they're both trying to recover, but together they kind of just can't, and they've actually decided that they're going to run away. Yes, that's why their relationship is causing friction, because Donald, Jane's dad, is like, I don't want that trans boy here. And Walter is like, you can't run away together. You also are enabling each other's addiction. This is very bad. I don't want to have to revive you again. Don't you remember, Jesse, that you died like a phoenix? Yeah, double meaning. Yup, double meaning with the name. And this all leads into the season finale, ABQ, which stands for Albuquerque. Walt's lies start to unravel, and Skylar's frustration with his secrecy finally comes to a head. Meanwhile, Jesse self-destructs when Jane overdoses, and Donald's grief leads to tragedy. this is where everything gets crazy. We'll start right here since it basically already says it. Unfortunately, yes, Jane overdoses, and the circumstances of this overdose are a little bit ghoulish. She unfortunately overdoses while Walter is watching her at night, and he lets it happen, and he's like, thank God that woman is dead, because Walter's a misogynist, and he's like, I will finally get my boy back to myself. If you guys have ever seen Disventure Camp, it's basically like Alec and Fiore from Disventure Camp. Let's watch the edit. So Fiore is a child, very vulnerable, and there's this man named Alec who manipulates her and enables her to do evil things. And there's a part coming up in this edit that's just about that. So Fiore really is confident on the top, and this is Alec. Alex is stuffed with marital problems with his son, and just watch this part. That's right, he has a selfish attachment to Fiore, just like Walter White has a selfish attachment to Jesse Pinkman, and he Jesse and Alec both really need Jesse and Fiore in their lives as this beacon of morality. They're a person outside of their family that they're able to use to supplement both their child and their wives. And it's not good. It is not healthy for anyone involved. So that is why Walter lets Jane overdose in bed right in front of him, and his eyes gleam a dark blue. So that's a little bit crazy, but anyway, so Donald's grief leads to a tragedy. He does unfortunately kill himself. It's honestly like whatever because he's kind of transphobic, but it is a little bit sad for everybody involved, I guess. It would be sad for Jane if she was alive, but she isn't anymore, sadly. And so Walter's lies starting to unravel and Skyler's frustration with the secrecy finally comes to a head. She confronts him about him killing Crazy A. She's like, why would you kill Crazy A? And I'm so angry that you would kill Crazy A. He was just a man. And do you even know what happened to Little A? He had to move to New York City. And Walter is like, whatever, I don't even give a damn about Little A anymore. I don't even care about anything. I don't care about school. And I'm quitting being a teacher. And I love to sell drugs. And I love to sell drugs. And Skyler's like, stop! Stop! Like, don't say that! We need our family! And Walter's like, I'm gonna kill Phoenix the cat right now. Let's see if it can rise from the ashes of its own body. And Skyler's like, stop, please! And that's when it happens. That's when she strikes him with a fire cane. She picks it up and she strikes him across the face. And she says, do not kill my cat, Phoenix! She won't let it happen. And that's the beginning of the new dynamic they have in their relationship. They're not breaking up. No siree. Instead, Skyler wants to have a little bit more of a piece of the pie. She's like, whatever. If this is the life that you've chosen for yourself, whatever. But don't hide from me. Don't pretend that I'm some wife and woman that you have to protect. If this is the direction that you've decided to take our family, then I'm going in that direction too. That's right. Skyler is now Heisenberg as well. And that's the end of season 2. This season is really all about how the White family has broken down in a lot of ways. It is about how he cannot hide from Skyler. Oh! It is about introducing a Spanish dub. It is a really good season. It's a great season 2. Things really are escalating. Things are getting a little bit more serialized, but it has not reached its peak. I can tell you that for sure. Of course, there is the crossover with Better Call Saul, the hit show, and of course Jesse gets his plotline with Jane, which ends very tragically. Maybe they could have made it out together. Probably not, but I guess technically maybe. And this all leads us to season 3, the midpoint of the series, and where things really do start to shift. It is yet again a year later. It is yet again a year later, and as we could see, they still have their iconic hats, but now they have new clothes as well. Um, so another outfit update that is very exciting. Barack Obama is still the president. Um, but we'll see. Next is no mas, and this is actually so sad. This actually means no more, and unfortunately, there is no more Spanish dub. I know, it sucks. It sucks, but unfortunately, there is no more Spanish dub. Well, let's just read the description. In the wake of the Albuquerque airline disaster, Skylar forces Walt to move out, while Jesse's stay in drug rehab helps him come to grips with his role in the fatal mid-air collision. Um, so this is like a new plot line. Like I've said, it's been a year, and the last time there was a year time skip between seasons, not really much happened, but now stuff has happened because um Jesse crashed a plane and killed 500 people. And it happens, of course, between seasons, but it's really bad. And because Skylar, of course, knows that Jesse and Walter are working together, and she knows that Walter's kind of been plucking Jesse to do these things. Um, Skylar is very angry. She is very upset, especially because when Walter learns about this, he's like, no, no, Jesse's going to go to jail or whatever. I'm so upset. I'm so upset. And Skylar's like, that's what you're upset about? Not those 500 people dying? You're crazy. You're sick, Walter. You're evil. Um, and she says this, of course, all while holding onto her gray cat Phoenix. And it's like sad. It's like more relationship drama. Even it's like a little bit weird because last season ended with their relationship no longer having drama, and now like we're moving forward to just even more relationship drama about this new thing going on. But trust me, they do have a plan. They know what they're doing, and this season is really good. So, um, sorry for the pause. So of course Jesse was arrested for killing 500 people in a plane crash, and he went to rehab because he was high when he did it, and he he like realizes that he did it. It's like he came to grips. He was like, I can't believe I did that. But he like kind of gets over it. Like this kind of honestly doesn't matter. It's kind of just like a big stinger for the beginning of the season, and it never comes up again. So anyway, next is Caballos Team Nombre. Um, I I'm gonna look up what that means. I think it means horse with no name or whatever, horse with no number. Okay, well, yeah, horse with no name. And you might be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that it's Spanish again when they don't have a Spanish dub." Well, the Spanish dub came back in this episode. Yeah, there was only the only episode of the entire show that it has no Spanish dub is this episode. This is actually because Barack Obama himself was like, I don't want there to be Spanish dub for this episode, and nobody knows why. Ask him. Um, and as we all know, the next president after Barack Obama was, in fact, Donald Trump. And I, I don't know where I'm going with that. Okay. Okay. The next episode, let's read the description. As he finds Skylar is dead set on getting a divorce, an unwitting Walt lands squarely in the crosshairs of a pair of Mexican drug cartel hitmen set on revenge. So this episode is one big metaphor. Skylar wants to get a divorce because Walter has been doing evil things and like has now sort of inadvertently led to the death of 500 people in a plane crash. And she's like, "We have enough money. Like you can do what you want. You can get like treatment. You don't need this serum." And he's like, whatever, I need the serum, I want the serum. So she's like, fine, if you want to get the serum, then I want to get a divorce. But, and he's like, fine, like, whatever. Like, let's just get the divorce then because I'm not going to stop with this life. And Skylar's like, whatever. But then Walter is, in fact, in the crosshairs of a pair of Mexican drug cartel hitmen set on revenge, which is really sad. These people were friends of Crazy Eight, and their names are actually Wicked Two. Like, they're the Wicked Two. So the Wicked Two are trying to get him, and that is when Phoenix the cat jumps up and slashes at them and slashes at the Wicked Two and slashes their eyes, and the Wicked Two fall down on the ground, which gives Walter just enough time to kill them. But the question is, does he kill them? He really thinks about it. All this death isn't always necessary, but then he realizes that they're going to come back for him in the future if he doesn't just kill them now. If he doesn't just prove that when people come after him, they'll be killed. He he's just going to keep getting gotten after until he dies himself. So he does in fact kill these men, and he does in fact tell Skylar about it, and they have a very open heart to heart where he's like, "I'm so sorry. These men just tried to kill me, and I had to kill them, but it isn't because I wanted to. I really, really didn't want to. But there's nothing I can do anymore. I'm in too deep, and I have to kill just to survive." And Skylar is like, "I understand, and let's no longer get divorced." And Walter is like, "Okay." So next is IFT. Um, IFT stands for um, and the description of the episode is: as Walt calls Skylar's bluff and moves back home without her consent, Jesse ponders re-entering the drug trade as a Mexican cartel anxiously awaits its opportunity to get revenge for the death of its own. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. The divorce is off, which doesn't mean that Walter can just come home. That doesn't mean that the drama is over, but he decides to anyway. Jesse is now like he's almost out of rehab, but he's like, should I be a part of the drug trade again or should I not? Walter, of course, really wants him to be a part of the drug trade, and the Mexican cartel is like, I hate that you guys killed Crazy Eight. We loved Crazy Eight. So all that drama is happening, but there's really not much to say. The only real question is, what does IFT stand for? IFT stands for oh, International Foot Tornado, which sounds like gross and weird, and it is, but that is actually there's like a joke that Jesse makes that the plane, which was an IFT plane, actually was the International Foot Tornado plane, because they found all feet of the 500 people intact. And people at the rehab center are like, that's really not good, but it shows that Jesse kind of is also a bad person. In the first two seasons, we really see that Jesse is being manipulated by Walter, but now we're seeing as Jesse's getting a little bit older, maybe he actually also is a bad guy himself. He's in an unfortunate position, but he is a bad guy. Um, so like him saying International Foot Tornado is like really proving that he's kind of this bad guy going towards a bad place. So next is Green Light, and you might be like, I love Squid Game. This is just like Squid Game, but it's actually this came out before Squid Game. So this is about, oh my God, as Skylar's affair with her boss creates chaos within her fractured marriage, a new batch of meth that puts Jesse back in business inadvertently gets Walt involved too. Wow, okay, so Jesse and Walter, they're back with what they're usually doing, but you remember that awesome boss that Skylar has? Well, turns out a big reason why she wanted the divorce, yup, that's right, it wasn't just because of all that stuff going on with Walter, like like making Jesse be like a drug guy, which led to the death of those 500 people, which Walter didn't really care about. It was actually kind of because she had a thing for her boss. Yeah, so that's drama because Walter is like, I can't believe you're bisexual. I can't believe I married a bisexual woman. And then Skylar is like, of course you would say that. Nobody even cares about us bisexual people. And you would think that the drama is actually about Skylar having an affair, but it's actually kind of about Walter's biphobia. And there's actually like a big PSA at the end of the episode where Skylar and Walter, they're actors who are named Rosie and Maple. They stand and look at the audience and they're like, they talk about biphobia and they talk about how bisexual people are an important part of the queer community. So that's awesome, and that's a great message. And let's see where this goes in Moss. And you might be like, no Moss and now Moss. And it's like, yup, because now there's even more dubs. Now the show is being dubbed in Russian, it's being dubbed in Greek. So lots of people can watch it now. As Skylar reconsiders her objections to him living back at home, Walt mulls over an offer to return to the drug trade. Hank's obsession with nailing Heisenberg promises trouble for Jesse. So, um, this is pretty straightforward. You might be like, I thought that Walter was already in the drug trade. Well, like, he kind of is at this point. It's kind of hard for me to remember because honestly, I'm just going to say it. This is such like a lull in his thing. Like, obviously, he gets back into the drug trade, but after the plane crash, since Jesse isn't there, he doesn't really do it anymore. That Jesse's back, he starts to do it again, or at least he wants to. But it's like I like if people come after me again, I'll have to kill them and everything. But like, should I really be moving forward with this as my whole life? I really don't need that serum. He's starting to be more on Skylar's side. However, Hank is now really stirring up drama for Jesse, who is now the only one acting under Heisenberg. Hank, of course, being a cop. So Walter is like, no, I have to protect Jesse. Skylar, the two of us have to also be Heisenberg again. And Skylar is like, I don't know about that, but Walter at least is committed to doing it. Next is Sunset. Wait, let's see. Let's see how many episodes. 13 episodes in the season. Next is Sunset. Um, Okay, so let's read the description. As Walt resumes business in Gus's state-of-the-art meth lab, the discovery of their old RV forces him and Jesse to act fast to keep from being busted by Hank. So, just to go off the last part of this quickly, they used to do their meth stuff in an RV, and Hank has found that RV, which will, like, now he's more so on the trail of catching them than ever, which is drama. Um, and you might be like, who is Gus? Well, Gus is actually a new character introduced in this episode. You might remember last season, Saul was like, I think I have a guy that you guys can be partners with. Well, that's actually Gus. Gus is a man who is awesome and he loves to wear yellow, and he is actually, in fact, the G in LGBT. Maybe the T, it's not confirmed ever, but it is implied. We do see him wearing a binder several times, but anybody could do that, so I don't know. Um, anyway, so sorry, I had a frog in my throat, but um, so Walter is in fact resuming business under Heisenberg, obviously, but now he's partnered with Gus because working with Gus is going to really put him in more of a position of protection. If Heisenberg was just Walter and Jesse and Skylar doing stuff, then it wouldn't be like they would be in more danger. So they need to work under Gus, which Walter isn't thrilled about. I mean, he had to work under Crazy Eight, and that was just unpleasant for him. But Gus at least is like a nicer guy. Like Gus is like gay, so it's like I don't know, like there's a little bit more going on there. Um, so yeah, that's pretty exciting for them. It is really sad that Skylar isn't a part of it though, even though Skylar was going to be a part of it at the end of last season. I was really excited for that when the show came out, but unfortunately they do kind of dial back Skylar's character. She starts out being a lot more like crafty and interesting in doing stuff in the early seasons, and then they just kind of pitter her off. She's not a part of things in the way that she should be anymore, and it really sucks. It's so sad. But anyway, yeah, they need to like scramble with the Hank stuff. Um, and 1 minute, 1 minute. The next episode is 1 minute. The reason why I didn't tell you what happened to the RV is because it explains it right here. Upset that his case has fallen apart as a result of the destruction of the mobile drug lab, Hank risks his career by attacking Jesse. Worried that Jesse will talk, Walt offers him a chance to team up again in his new lab. So, obviously, they destroy the mobile drug lab. They actually light it on fire with a flame, and Hank is aware generally of the fact that this Jesse person is involved. He doesn't know that Walter's involved. He's like very vaguely suspicious, but he's more focused on getting evidence than he is on forming theories. And he knows that Jesse has to be involved in some way. So immediately he immediately kidnaps Jesse and is like, talk to me, Jesse, talk to me, Jesse. And Jesse is like, no way. So Walter actually sneaks in through the window and is like, Jesse, please team up with me um, to bust you out of here. And then Jesse's busted out. Yup. It's really good. You might also realize that this is now the 1 year anniversary of like when he's supposed to meet with Jane, and Jane is now not only absent, but she is dead. And this episode is a big emotional core of Jesse being trapped in a prison by Hank, but also being trapped in the prison of his current life. Whether it was from his own actions or Walter's or whatever, it is this prison, and there's actually a key to the cell that is just like a little metal figurine of Jane with like a key attached to it to show that Jane was the key to unlocking him from prison, but she's dead, so now he's in prison and he's trapped metaphorically. The next episode is I See You, and oh my God, I I almost forgot to mention this. As Hank clings to life following the drug cartel's attempt to kill him, that does happen in this episode. When Walter and Jesse break out because Gus is protecting them now. Gus and his friends try to kill Hank, and it's a big deal for Hank. But Walt looks to insulate himself from more trouble by taking on Jesse as a partner when he realizes that the hitmen may have been after him too. Oh my God. And here's Gus. He's smiling because he's talking to a boy on the phone. You might also remember his actor from Once Upon a Time. And if you do, that's awesome. Once Upon a Time is an awesome show. Um, so in this episode, we actually get a really big look into Hank's life. Hank, as a character up until now, has not been that likable. He's pretty racist, unfortunately. He's also a cop, of course. And Walter is like our protagonist. We're supposed to be rooting for him. We're at least supposed to be like wanting the show to move forward. And we don't want Hank to catch him because it's like, ugh, then the show will end. But we see more from Hank's perspective here. The show really tries to get you to sympathize with him here, which I don't know. And this I see you thing is actually a line spoken between Marie and Hank because they're married for some reason. And Hank is like, I'm just so stressed and upset and I hate this life. And Maria's like, stop. It's okay. I see you. I see you, Hank. And we're married and I love you. And then Hank is like, you know what? F it, let's get a dog. So ends with a cliffhanger where they're gonna get a dog, just like Marie's awesome cat Phoenix. I mean, Skylar's awesome cat Phoenix. Anyway, um, so it might be like, what's all this stuff about taking on Jesse as a partner? I thought that you said that they already partnered up. Well, they did, but actually, this is when it's like revealed that there was a Mandela effect a few episodes ago. It's revealed in this episode that there's a Mandela effect where they did become partners again, but then they were traded with alternate versions of themselves where everything was the same except they didn't become partners again, and now they're becoming partners like the alternate versions of themselves in this current universe are now becoming partners again. So that's what's happening. But also like the hitmen are after them again. More hitmen are after them again for killing Crazy Eight. And at this point, it's like it's been several years since Crazy Eight's death. It's like you would think they would let it go, but it's interesting because it is showing that there is actually somebody above Crazy Eight who's been hunting them, and we're going to learn who that is eventually. So that's exciting. That's sort of a a little teaser for the future. Um, Next is Kafkaesque or Kafkaesque or whatever. And this episode's description is as he and Walt resume production, Jesse looks for a way to increase his take, while the prospects for Hank's recovery place Marie at odds with their insurance company. So this is finally a continuation of that plotline of Hank being physically damaged by Tuco's death. If you remember, Hank was being physically damaged by Tuco's death, and Skylar was like, okay, I'm going to slip some money, I'm going to slip some money. But now Hank actually has had the experiences of learning about the serum. He's learned that there's a serum that doesn't just cure cancer, but can cure anything and maybe even make you immortal. And he's like, okay, I get it now. All these drug lords are going after this serum that they all want so that they can live forever and stuff. There's also a twist that the serum does make you live forever. So he's like, well, I'm recovering from the death of my dear friend Tuco, and I'm also really sad and fragile because I'm 85. Yeah, he's 85. Um, so I want to live forever. So I don't know. And he decides in this episode actually that he is now in the race for getting the serum, but he's going to get the serum not by being in with the drug people, but by busting all the drug people. Then he'll claim the serum, which is like that is a very defining moment for Hank's character. Last episode we really learned a lot about him and his struggles, but now we're realizing that just like Jesse, just like Walter, even just like Skylar, he isn't like a good person. He's not a hero. He's selfish. He just wants the serum at this point. It's honestly tragic. It is a tragedy. But they do also get their dog in this episode, and they do name their dog Kafkaesque. Yes, that is the name of their dog, Kafkaesque. So that's beautiful. That's a beautiful name. Um, Jesse is looking to get more money from Walter, which is kind of drama about their personal relationship. Walter, of course, knew Jesse when he was a child, and Walter does not view Jesse as his own person. So Walter is like, I need this money for my family, but Jesse is like, I need the money just for myself. And Walter's like, well, if I give you more money, you're just going to spend it on drugs. And Jesse's like, well, that's my choice. I'm the person who's like making the drugs, so I should be able to like get some money from this. And it's like drama between them. It doesn't really go anywhere, but it is drama. And Marie being at odds with their insurance company is a big deal because we actually learn a lot more about Marie in this episode. We learn that she's actually a thief. It turns out that she is a thief that steals, and she has actually been stealing from her insurance company for 20 years. And she does not get caught, but there is this little plot line in which we learn more about her with that. As you can see, they've really been contextualizing more about Hank and Marie recently, which I love because Marie's my favorite character. Next is, of course, Fly. Obsessed with a contaminant, Walt refuses to cook, and Jesse tries to get him back on track. You might be like, what? Like, what a weird description. Like, what is even happening in this episode? This episode is actually a bottle episode. And if you don't know what a bottle episode is, let's learn together. A bottle episode is a an episode produced cheaply and restricted to scope to use as regular cast member effect set. So in this situation, they are only in one room. It is only Walter and Jesse together, and they are just talking about this for the whole episode. They're in their little meth lab, and they're like, they discover that there's a contaminant, and Walter is like, I don't want this contaminant here, so we should stop. And then Jesse's like, no, we should keep going. And then there's drama between them because Walter does not care about Jesse's feelings and stuff, and they talk about everything that they've been through. They talk about what it was like for them when Walter was just simply his teacher and stuff. They talk about how Walter has this is his first year not teaching in like a very long time. It's like it's supposed to be a touching episode that like has this new emotional core of like them as a pair. They start to get along a lot more, and it's implied that Walter will start to respect Jesse a lot more. However, I would also like to mention that Walter, of course, watched Jane die and did not tell Jesse. So, that is still drama. There is, of course, still a lot going on in their relationship that Jesse doesn't know about, but Jesse at least trusts Walter more and thinks that Walter trusts him more. There's that buildup of some more respect. And it's called Fly because this episode is actually from the perspective of a fly. They made a really little drone and they flew it around and put it on walls. The POV of the episode is from a fly in the room. Um, I actually do not know how to say the name of this episode, but as you can see, Skylar's boss that she is having an affair with is back, so we're going to learn a little bit more about her. Um, As Hank is unhappy with the pace of his recovery and Skylar's questions Saul's money laundering scheme, Jesse falls for a fellow rehab patient who he learns is tied to the murder of his late friend. Combo. So, if you don't know, late means dead. So, like, late friend is actually dead friend. But, so let's really get into this. So, I've been avoiding saying this. I didn't think I would have to bring this up. It gets honestly really confusing. This Saul is not the Saul from Better Call Saul. Saul is actually also the name of Skylar's boss. Skylar's boss is named Saul, and Saul from Better Call Saul is also named Saul. It's a complete coincidence. The shows were being made at the same time. It was an accident, but it is the case they are both named Saul. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So Hank is unhappy with the pace of his recovery, really showing that he wants to get back on track into the drug game so that he can, in fact, get the serum. And Skylar is really questioning Saul's ethics and morals. Saul has been good to her because Skylar really depends on anybody other than Walter in her life, like romantically. And the way that Walter uses Jesse to fulfill the role of like his wife and his son, Skylar is using Saul to fulfill the role of like a caretaking partner that Walter could never be. But Saul is not a good person. Skylar's not asking the question of who has Saul killed? How did Saul get into this drug business? Saul is a very mysterious woman, and we do learn a little bit more about her. It turns out that you know how Jesse killed 500 people in a plane crash? It turns out that Saul has killed 1 million people in a plane crash. There was a plane with 1 million people on it, and Saul crashed it. Yeah. And Skylar can't handle that. She's very upset learning that. And Saul has also, of course, been money laundering because, okay, I forgot to mention this. So much happens in the show, but now that Skylar isn't working for Walter anymore, Skylar and Saul both quit, and now they are working at a little, like, car wash together. And Saul has been money laundering at the car wash, and Skylar is like, you should stop money laundering. And Saul is like, but I want to. And Skylar is like, this is a fresh start for us. Please, like, let's not go down this route again. We could be happy together. And Saul is like, go down this route again. I've been down this route. I'm bad down. I'm I'm down Bad Choice Road, Skylar. Where are you? And Skylar's like taken aback by that. She realizes that maybe Saul honestly isn't the woman that she's looking for, which completely shatters her, of course. Um, and yes, it is true. Jesse has fallen for a new person. Jesse has fallen for a new woman whose name is TBR to be revealed, but um, so Combo. So Combo is Jesse's friend who died a very long time ago. When Jesse was 13, he had a friend who was 25 named Combo. And you might be like, how did they become friends? Well, they became friends because Combo was actually his babysitter. But and Jesse considers them friends, but it was a very normal relationship between like a babysitter named Combo and a babysat named Jesse. So Jesse is like, Combo's my friend, but he got murdered so long ago, and he meets somebody who he falls in love with, but then that person is like, yeah, in fact, my brother Combo was murdered. And then Jesse's like, oh my God, like, your older brother Combo was my babysitter. And then this person is like, that's crazy. So let's move on. There's two more episodes left in the season, by the way. Next is Half Measures. Ignoring Walt's objections, Jesse goes after the drug dealers who orchestrated Combo's murder. As Hank continues to refuse to leave the hospital, Skylar presses Walt to accept her money laundering scheme. So here's what's going on. This is another one that's pretty straightforward. Jesse learns that drug dealers killed Combo because of his new girlfriend, who I'm just going to say because I don't know if they will. Her name is Cambo. So Cambo told him that Combo's murderers are these drug dealers, and Jesse's going to go after them, which is a big deal because Jesse has accidentally killed 500 people, but he's never purposefully killed anybody. So it's kind of like, is he actually going to do that? Um, and Walter is like, you really shouldn't do that. You're just going to get more like enemies. And then he's like, they made enemies when they killed my babysitter. Um, and then Hank, of course, is continuing to refuse to leave the hospital because he is in so much pain that he just can't do it. And he's really stressed out because he's like, no, I need to leave the hospital eventually to get that serum. But he's also like, I can't leave the hospital because I'm in so much pain because of Tuco's death. Um, and Skylar is like, we can get this really good, we can get this really good, like stuff that will help Hank if we get more money. So I'm going to do this money laundering scheme with my boss Saul, and Walter's like, Saul and you are still together. Why would I want to let you do like this scheme with the woman that stole my wife? And Skylar's like, whatever, Walter, like the woman who stole my husband was drug dealing, and I don't complain about that anymore. And Walter's like, whatever, I guess you're right. So Skylar now gets a little bit back in the game because she's doing this specifically because she's like, Hank is going after Heisenberg. You and Jesse are Heisenberg, and I used to be Heisenberg. They would take down our entire family if he found us. So we need to get him out of the hospital as soon as possible and get him specifically not feeling pain anymore so that he will care less about getting the serum. And Walter is like, I guess that's true. And full measure. It's after half measure. It's now full measure. This is the season finale of season 3 of Breaking Bad. Let's see. Um, After taking out two of his boss's street dealers, Walt realizes that Gus is planning to kill him and Jesse and replace him with his former assistant. This is the reveal. The people, the hitmen that have been working um in lieu of Crazy Eight, the person that Crazy Eight had been working for, it's Gus. Yup. Gus hired Crazy Eight so long ago, like 50 years ago or something, and Crazy Eight was working for him. So this whole time when Walter and Jesse were working for Crazy Eight, they were actually also working for Gus. So now Gus is their partner, but he has been playing them the whole time. And when Walter realizes that, and when he realizes that Gus sent those hitmen after them, and then he realized, okay, sorry, let me start over with that. He realizes that Gus's plan was initially just to kill Walter and Jesse, but then he realizes that he can make money out of them by like partnering with them or whatever. And now Gus is gearing up to kill them now that he knows all of their secret meth recipes. And Walter is like so stressed out about that. It is just a repeat of the Crazy Eight situation in a way where Crazy Eight wanted to kill him, except now it's way higher stakes because Gus is actually trying to kill him. Crazy Eight backed off, but Gus is not going to. There's a lot more that happens in this episode that I'm going to talk about quickly, but we will get back to this Gus plotline. So the money laundering scheme does go off really well. Skylar and Saul have this like plotline in this episode that's kind of like a last hurrah for them. Saul is really in deep into this world, and Skylar doesn't know if she can be with Saul in that way. She's already with Walter in this horrible drug world because Walter and her have like a family, but she doesn't have a family with Saul. She doesn't want to be with Saul if Saul is like this. So she's like, they have a lot of fun. They have a lot of great moments together as they do this like money laundering stuff. But then Skylar is like, Saul is over, and Saul is like, I know. I'm sorry, Skylar, that I couldn't be the woman you needed me to be. And Skylar is like, I know. I'm sorry that I couldn't be the woman you needed me to be. And then they part. And it's really sad, but they part. And as for Jesse, Jesse does, in fact, unfortunately, kill the drug dealers who orchestrated Combo's murder. That does happen. It cements that he also is this vindictive and not really good person. And at the same time, Walt kills Gus. Yep, Walter kills Gus. It is disturbing. The way that he kills Gus is by using a laser beam. He trains a bird to go after laser beams, and then he puts a laser beam on Gus's face, and you do the math. That bird went right for it. Um, it is honestly kind of like, okay, in my opinion, season three is not that great. Um, it's like a little bit weird. I like the themes that everybody's a bad person. I like that it shows that Jesse also is just like not really that great of a person. I like that Skylar gets involved in some bad stuff. I like that Marie and Hank are shown to be bad people. But I feel like the fact that they really backed down from the idea is that Skylar is like a part of the Heisenberg operation. I feel like that was honestly like I don't know why they would come up with that idea if they weren't going to use it. It's really weird. But of course, as you can see, um, Breaking Bad, how season three sort of saves the show. Um, People were not happy with season two. Here's the real drama. People were not happy with the end of season two. People were not happy with the idea of Skylar becoming a part of Heisenberg, which is why they scrapped it. It's never been stated, but they definitely scrapped it specifically because these fans hated it. And that is so irritating to me. Um, they should have been confident with the decision they made. Instead, they just made Skylar be like honestly like useless. Um, let's see what some people on Reddit have to say. I'm going to read this person's post and I'm going to say all of my opinions on this. Um, yeah, oh my God, Walter's the worst. Yeah, see, people hate Skylar. People hate Skylar so much they hate her having any role on the show. She was in the right for most of the arguments, and it felt like she has very genuine reactions. Although she never blinks, and good God, those eyes are scary. That's true, she does have blue eyes, but unfortunately, people like this, like she was in the right for most of the arguments. Like she's an abused woman. That's all I'm going to say. But Jesse is such a nuisance. But what junkie isn't, right? Wow. His redeeming arc is interesting though. Excited to see what he does in the last two seasons. That's a very interesting interpretation because Jesse definitely has sort of like a corruption arc in this season. But I'm very interested in the fact that a lot of Breaking Bad fans, like, they truly do see him as a redeemable person, even though he kind of isn't. He just is in comparison to Walter. Like, if you compare the characters, Jesse's definitely better, but he's not that great. Anyway, Walter Jr. has my heart. I want to be his friend. Me too. I love Walter Jr. Him and Forsyth have started dating officially. It's so good, but Oh, yeah, I'm not surprised to see this here. Hank is hilarious. Overall, he is my favorite character and probably has the most realistic characteristics out of the whole cast. Oh my god! I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Don't talk about Marie that way. That person, I think their Reddit username was Spicy Amigo. I hope they're watching this video and I hope that they're scared of me. Yeah. Because there's something really evil that's going to happen to you. Yup. Everybody go on Reddit and make posts at Spicy Amigo. Yeah, tell them Secret Kismet sent you. Yeah, thanks. I just obviously, as you can tell, my opinions on the characters differ a little bit from some other people. Oh, as you can see, the show now loves yellow. Walter no longer is wearing his outfit that he's been wearing. He now has this new outfit with these glasses, and he has got like a mustache. Honestly, he looks good. He looks good. So, oh, and yet again, there's a year time skip, but it is actually we have moved beyond a year. It is not just a year. Um, and as you can see, there's another year-long time skip. This time we're picking it up in July and ending in October, which is exciting. And we start off with Box Cutter. And all I'm going to say is that my roommate brings home a lot of box cutters. Oh my god, I have two Instagram notifications. I'm going to check them. Okay, now we're into the final two seasons. This is when things get really crazy. This is when the genre really switches to neo-western. I hope that you're excited because I sure am. All I can say is that things get dark and there's lots of swear words in this season, but I won't repeat them. Next, oh, Walt and Jesse anxiously wait to see what their drug lord boss Gus will do next. Meanwhile, Skylar desperately searches for clues to Walt's activities while Hank continues his slow, painful rehab. Um, so you might have a lot of questions. If you haven't seen the show, you might be like, isn't Gus dead? Doesn't Skylar know everything? And didn't Hank get out of rehab? And it's been a full year, so what's really going on here? Well, okay. You might be like, Gus must have gotten resurrected. Um, and the answer is no, he didn't get resurrected. He was in fact killed with a bird, if you remember. I almost forgot, but oh my god. The police! Sorry. I live next to a police station. Isn't that an awesome fact about me? Isn't that literally, isn't that so cool? Anyway, um, so you might be like, what happened? Why is Gus back? Gus isn't actually dead. They thought that they killed him with the bird, but it actually turns out that the person who they thought was Gus, wasn't Gus. It was his twin brother, Gis. Gis, in fact, sacrificed himself for Gus because Gis and Gus are very close. Um, and this was, of course, foreshadowed with Combo and Cambo. Gus Gis Combo Cambo. Like it was like supposed to be foreshadowed. And Walter and Jesse obviously know that Gus is alive now. I actually think it might have happened at the very end of last season. So I'm sorry that I didn't mention it, but Gus does reveal that he is alive. He like claps and he walks on screen and he's like, all right, like you did great with killing Gis, but now let's get back to it, okay? Enough with the murder attempts. And Skylar desperately searching for clues to Walter's activities. That actually has nothing to do with the drug stuff at all. Walter actually like their wedding anniversary is coming up. So their anniversary is coming up, and Walter actually has been baking lots of sweets, lots of cakes, because Skylar loves sweets and cakes. That's like a big thing about her. And he also has been working on getting the registration ready for Phoenix to be a service cat for Skylar because she has a new job. Skylar has a new job. She's working at the DMV and she is also like she's chronically anxious and having Phoenix there really helps her. So Phoenix so he's working on the registration for Phoenix to become a first service animal, but it's keeping him really busy. So Skylar is desperately searching for clues to Walter's activities because Walter has done such evil things before that she didn't know about, but this time it's actually pretty innocent. Um, and Hank is in fact continuing his slow, painful rehab. Um, they got the money to get him out, but he didn't take it. It was revealed at the beginning of this episode that he didn't take that money. In fact, well, he did take the money, but he ate it all. He ate all the money. It was just a check, so it's not like he didn't just eat like a bunch of money, but he ate the check. So that's really crazy. Moving on, 38 snub. Walt prepares his defense against Gus as Jesse copes by reviving his friendship with Badger and Skinny Pete. Meanwhile, as Skylar hatches a scheme of her own, her sister Marie struggles to deal with Hank's deep depression. So, yes, in fact, unfortunately, Hank is still very sad about the death of his close friend Tuco, and Marie now is struggling. We get some Marie focus. She's struggling to deal with it, and the way that she acts on that is that she begins to steal vases that are shaped like frogs, and she puts them on these little ceramic lily pads that she has on top of a transparent clear table, and she thinks that it looks beautiful. It's like a beautiful little pond. Um, and you might be like, Jesse is reviving his friendship with Badger and Skinny Pete, like they stopped being friends. Well, here's the thing: it's not that they stopped being friends. Off screen, between seasons, Badger and Skinny Pete were killed. Yeah, they fell off of a building separately at different times. But Jesse was able to get their bodies together, and he used the necromancy magic that Skinny Pete taught him and his friendship for them to bring them back. So that was nice to see. Um, he's really like sinking some time into his friendships now, which is honestly beautiful. This episode also takes place 3 days before my birthday. So you can tell I was hyped when this episode came out. I would have been turning 7 in a few days, so I was really excited for that as well when this episode came out. Um, so you might also be like, Walt prepares his defense against Gus. What's going on there? In fact, they are going to court against Gus because Gus has been found out to be a drug dealer, but they're being like, no, we're not drug people. It's honestly beautiful. And when I say there, I mean Walter and Skylar, not Jesse, because everyone knows that Jesse's a drug person. But it's like beautiful. It's like a beautiful moment of Walter and Skylar like having this like union. They're both holding two paws each of the cat Phoenix, and they are staring into the judge's eyes, and they say in unison, Augustus Spring is an evil drug dealer. And the judge is like, this beautiful marriage is convincing me. It is a little bit dark though because Walter is planning to kill Gus again eventually, but for now he can get away with this. Oh, and what's Skylar's scheme? Well, we'll talk about Skylar's scheme next episode. in open house. While Walt worries about Gus's interference in Jesse's increasingly fragile state of mind, Skylar steps up the pressure to get what she wants. Yup. So what does Skylar want? Skylar wants Walter to finally get a BBL. He has been going for so long wanting one, and they have the money and the opportunity now. She is like, just do it. Just do it already. She's like, you can kill people, but you can't get a BBL. What's wrong with you? And he's like really taken aback by it. But he agrees, and he's like, fine, I'll get a BBL at the end of the episode. But he's like, I'm worried though about Gus's interference and Jesse's increasingly fragile state of mind. It's this drama where Skylar's honestly kind of lost it at this point. She's a very like, she has a lot of like poison inside of her metaphorically because this whole situation has stressed her out to her core. And of course, their little baby is now a few years old and she has to deal with that baby. And it's like a lot going on for her. But Walter is like, okay, like I do want a BBL, you're right, but I'm so worried about Gus and Jesse. And Skylar's like, whatever. You should care about our family more than anything. Family is the most important thing. I thought you were doing all this for your family. So Walter's like, fine, like, okay, I guess that I will just get my BBL. So he does do it, but while he's doing it, lo and behold, Jesse's girlfriend Cambo, if you remember her, Cambo dies. Cambo literally dies. And this time it wasn't Walter's fault. This time it was Jesse's fault. Jesse was playing gun catch. He plays this game where he sits on the couch with Cambo and he throws a gun up in the air and he catches it. And it went off and it shot Cambo and she died. And Walter's always like saying, don't play gun catch, don't play gun catch. But because Walter wasn't around, Jesse did it and then Cambo died. So that sucked. Next is bullet points. Um, as Skylar concocts an elaborate story to explain their finances, Walt worries when he discovers that Hank has begun a new investigation and Jesse's lack of interest in doing anything but partying catches Gus's attention. Okay, yes, I thought this was this episode. I'm so excited. So, in this episode, Gus and Jesse go on a party spree. Yup, Gus and Jesse are literally partying this whole episode. It like really catches Gus's attention and he's like, "Oh, Jesse, like let's go out and dance together and let's party." And Jesse's like, "Okay." And then that's the whole episode. Like that's their whole part of the episode. Nothing even really happens there. It's just we get to see these characters living a happy life. And it's very sweet. Um, Skylar, of course, has to figure out how to explain that she and Walter have so much money now because they really do. And if you remember, like they did give a lot of money to um, Hank for his recovery, and there's the big question of how did they get that money? And Hank and Maria are like, we should pay you back. And Skylar's like, no, you don't have to. And they're like, it was $5 million. Like, don't you want that back? And Skylar's like, no. And she has to like figure out a way to like explain how they have $5 million. Um, Eventually she figures out that she can just say that they won the lottery because when you win the lottery, you're like not supposed to tell anyone. So she's like, don't tell anyone, but we won the lottery, and that like really helps their case a lot. So that like thankfully that goes well. Um, Hank, however, does begin a new investigation though. The idea that they could have $5 million, it's making him more suspicious than ever. And he's finally like, okay, I'll accept some money so that I can get out of this hospital, but I I need I'm not going to like fully recover. I'm still going to be in pain over Tuco's death because I need motivation to get that serum. Because in the way that Walter uses his cancer as motivation to put his family at risk and stuff, and his motivation to like give himself the power that he secretly craves, Hank is using his pain over the death of Tuco as an excuse to also go after the serum. So That's what happens this episode, and it's really good. Next is Shotgun. This is another great episode. While Walter worries that his partner is about to be killed, Jesse is with Mike on a perilous run. Meanwhile, as Walt and Skylar close the car wash deal, Hank decides to close his investigation. Yes, in fact, Walter and Skylar are buying the car wash. They are buying the car wash that Stahl worked at. Um, Saul doesn't work there anymore. She is mysteriously gone. Nobody knows where she went, but they are in fact buying that car wash and they're hyped about it. Their anniversary also happens in this episode, and there's a very sweet moment between them. Um, and like when Walt worries about his partner being killed, it's not Jesse that he's talking about. It's Gus. He's worried that somebody's going to kill Gus, and it's a big question of like, why is he so worried about somebody killing Gus? And the answer that you're supposed to infer is like because he wants to be the one who pulls the trigger. He wants to be the one who kills Gus. He is so desensitized to death that now he craves being the killer for his own like personal stuff. It's twisted. So they are getting the car wash, and that's exciting. And Hank is closing his investigation because he's like, whatever, I guess they just won the lottery. And he's like, I can't be going after this serum forever. So he publicly closes his investigation, but we do actually see a private moment between him and Marie, where Marie is like, you're really done with this? You're really not going to take down Heisenberg? And he's like, you bet your goddamn purple pants I'm not done with this investigation. And it's like, okay, like I guess he's still doing it, but just in secret now. Because he does still genuinely suspect that Walter did it. Like, he believes like maybe they won the lottery, but he believes that Walter could be involved, so he's doing his investigation more secretly now. And Jesse is with Mike on a perilous run. Mike is actually Jesse's new girlfriend that he met while he was out clubbing with Gus. Here they are together. Um, Sorry. So that's really exciting. They are going out on, oh my God, FML, 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 whatever, FML. Okay, sorry, I lost my cool. They're going out on a drug run together because they love drugs. Next is Cornered. When Skylar suspects that Walt isn't telling her the truth, Skylar adopts a cold and businesslike approach toward him. Meanwhile, as Gus draws him closer, Jesse proves his worth to Mike and Gus's enterprise. Um, so you might be like, who's this a photo of? This is actually, there's a big flashback as part of this episode. This is actually Marie when she was young. She used to have short hair. But when she married Hank, we learned that she actually grew out her hair. Yeah. So think of that as you will. So she suspects that Walter isn't telling her the truth, but it's like about what? And it's because Walter is trying to kill Gus. He's really like building up some stuff to kill Gus, and Skylar is still operating under the idea that Walter isn't like actively trying to kill people. He's only doing it when he has to and stuff. But that's a lie. Um, that is a complete lie, and she is trying to figure out in the best way that she can. She's been emotional with Walter before, and he hasn't told her anything. She's tried to like threaten a divorce, and he hasn't told her anything. So she is now adopting a cold and businesslike approach towards him. She's like, have it on my desk by 4, like your explanation. Have your explanation on my desk. So things are getting tense between them, but um, Jesse and Gus are, of course, getting closer, and with that, Mike and Jesse are getting closer. So this might seem like Mike and Gus have an enterprise together, but they're actually separate. Jesse proves his worth to Gus's enterprise of drugs, and Jesse proves his worth to Mike's enterprise of love. And it's actually also Mike's birthday in this episode. Mike is turning 26, and they're Jesse and Mike are like, oh my God, because they love to celebrate their birthdays. So that's really great. And We learn in the flashback that Marie and Skylar actually really, really got along when they were younger, and they actually used to have both a cat and a dog. But then the cat killed the dog, and Skylar took the cat side, and Marie took the dog side, and things have never been the same since. Which leads us into Problem Dog. Kafkaesque is coming back. Walt places Skylar in a difficult spot with their new operation, and as Walt looks to protect himself against Gus, Jesse agrees to a dangerous proposition. Yeah, so well, Skylar, of course, now owns this car wash, and she's really glad to do that. But Walter wants to use the car wash as a place for drug stuff. And Skylar is like, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I don't want that to be my life. I don't want that to be your life. This is our family car wash. I want to eventually give it to our beautiful sons, Walter Jr. and Skylar Jr. Please don't do this, please. And Walter is like, whatever, IDGAF. I want my drugs in this car wash. That's kind of why I secretly bought it. And Skylar's pretty upset about that. Um, he also wants the car wash as like a secondary location for his drug stuff because he's planning to kill Gus and like take over his own like meth operation on his own pretty soon. But at the same time, Jesse's actually getting really close to Gus. Jesse agrees to a dangerous proposition. The dangerous proposition being that he is going to go out clubbing every night, which will be really dangerous for his sleep schedule. Which is definitely part of Gus's plans. He wants to go clubbing with Jesse, specifically because if they go clubbing together, then Jesse is going to be too tired to be able to do drugs, right? Which will give Gus a excuse to kill him. Yeah, turns out that clubbing was not as nice as it seemed. Next is hermanos, and that means brothers. It's awesome that this is another Spanish episode. Anyway, oh my god, and this is Gus. As Hank produces evidence that Gus is Albuquerque's meth kingpin, Walt worries that both he and Jesse are going to be killed to protect their boss. This is when Hank's secret investigation comes back up. He believed that it was Walter, but now he has figured out that it is Gus. He has figured it out that it is this Gus guy who owns like an awesome restaurant that he actually goes to every single day for breakfast. And he gets pretty upset that it's the boss of this breakfast place that he loves, but more importantly to us, the viewers, Gus is seemingly going to throw Walter and Jesse in the way of things. Um, oh my God, I fell asleep. Um, More importantly to us, we're afraid that Gus is going to throw Walter and Jesse under the bus so that they get taken instead. It's now or never. They need to do something about Gus soon. I also forgot to say why this is called Problem Dog and what it has to do with Kafkaesque. Um, well, the dog actually does like sniff out drugs at Gus's restaurant. So problem dog, like more like problem solving dog. So yeah. Next is Bug. I love bugs, so I of course love this episode. The description is as Walt struggles to subvert Hank's homegrown investigation into the Albuquerque meth business, a deadly warning forces Gus to consider a deal with the Mexican cartel. Um, this is like the writing is on the page, like it's pretty simple. Like Hank is really putting something together against Gus, which puts Walter in danger. So Walter is trying to like figure out a way to make Hank's investigation go awry again. And Gus is also learning that his investigation might actually produce like Gus actually getting being Gus is actually learning more about how the investigation specifically implicates him. So Gus is really like, okay, now I need protection. So now he wants to work with the Mexican. So now he wants to work with the Mexican cartel who can protect him. So Walter works with Walter works with Gus so that Gus will protect him and Jesse, and Gus is going to work with the Mexican cartel so the cartel can protect him. So lots of protection going on. Next is Salud. Sorry, I'm just so exhausted from talking about this for way too long, way too much of my day. Sorry, but we're almost there. Oh my God, wait. I almost forgot. This episode also takes place on September 11th, 2011, 10 exact years after 9/11. So that's so and there's a big question in this episode. There's a big moment where Gus is like, "What did Barack Obama do to mourn 9/11? He's a terrible president because he didn't mourn 9/11." So that's like now we like know more about Gus's political stance, I guess. Um, Next we're moving on to Salud. As Walt is recovering from their fight, Gus takes Jesse to Mexico to seal his deal with the cartel. But as Gus unleashes his own deadly plan to retain control of his drug empire, Skylar worries when her ex-boss, Ted Beneke, balks at using his unexpected inheritance to pay his back taxes. Um So yeah, we learn in this episode that actually, as a surprise, Saul's real name. So yeah, we learn as a surprise in this episode that Saul's real name was Ted Beneke. And you might be thinking, why on earth would they name this character Saul if their real name is Ted Beneke and there was another character named Saul from like a sister show? And it's like, it just happens. Like that's just the way that the world turns. Sorry. That it just happens. So anyway, um who did Walt fight with? Of course he fought with Gus because he's like, please don't kill me. And Gus is like, I don't care about you. I'm going to do it anyway if I want to, and you have nothing that you can do to stop me. We also learned that Gus is actually a triplet. He has another brother named Gas. So there's Gas, Giz, and Gus. And he's like, if you try to kill me, I can guarantee you right now that it will be Gas and not me. And Walter believes him because it's like, of course, like Gus is really clever. But Gus is taking Jesse with him to Mexico because Gus really likes Jesse and he wants to also like go to like clubs in Mexico. But also, of course, he wants to seal the deal with the cartel. But also he kills everybody in the cartel. He said that he was going to help them, but he kills like every single person there, and there's like 500 people there. So that's kind of a big deal, and he forces Jesse to be a part of it. So Jesse has had to kill way more people than he did before now. Um, and completely unrelated to any of this, Saul, now Ted Beneke, is back, and she's like, oh, wait, what happened again? Oh, right. Inheritance and back taxes. So Skylar secretly wired Saul with like $500 million. And Saul is like, whoa, there's no way that you legally got all this money. And Skylar's like, nope, I stole it from obviously my husband, who's like Heisenberg or whatever. And Saul is like, well, I can't just have $500 million. There's now like this bank transaction of so much money between us. There, that's suspicious. And Skylar is like, yeah, I know that's actually part of my plan. and her plan is to have the trail be thrown off of Gus by having this extremely suspicious like bank transaction happen, which will make Hank investigate her and also Walter instead of Gus, which seems like it would be a bad idea, but let's just say we're going somewhere with that. So next is there are 3 episodes left. Next is Crawl Space. Um, Walt takes drastic action to protect his secret and Gus, and Skyler's efforts to solve Ted's financial problems hit a wall. If you've seen the show, you know this is a big episode. We'll start with the Skyler plotline. Um, so Saul is really poor right now. Saul doesn't have any money right now, which is a big reason as to why Skyler wired in all that money. But the money isn't going through. Skyler's kind of like playing a waiting game, waiting for Hank to investigate her a little bit more. But she really needs Saul to get as much money as possible that Saul can live somewhere else and not be a part of this anymore. Because the thing is, like, blame will be thrown at Skyler and Walter, which Skyler has a plan for, but she can't deal with blame being thrown against Saul, so she has to try to get Saul as much money as possible so that Saul can like disappear from the country like forever. And it's a big final goodbye between them. She does manage to get Saul like a couple $1 million, and then Saul is like, "Okay, goodbye, Skyler. I love you." And Skyler's like, "Love you too, Saul." Um, but now back to the other plotline, the main plotline of the episode. Walter gets wind that Gus and Jesse went out to the desert, and he is not happy about it. Walter immediately goes out to the desert. He knows exactly where they are, and he goes there and he sees like 500 dead bodies, and he's checking all of them to make sure that none of them are Jesse. He's very upset that Gus is no longer killing Jesse, but he's putting Jesse in like harm's way to be killed, and Walter can't handle it. He is extremely upset. He's like, I need to kill Gus now. And the episode ends with a big standoff between them. The episode ends where like the standoff doesn't happen, but it's about to happen. Gas is not there. We know that Gas isn't there because this is like a plan where it specifically has to be Gus and it has to be Jesse. So wherever Gas is, he's not there. Gus was not expecting Walter to be here. And neither was Jesse. It's a big deal, and let's see what happens next in End Times, the penultimate episode. Hank pushes Gomez to pursue a lead, whilst Walt struggles to protect his family. Jesse gets alarming news. So this is, of course, Gomez is Hank's like police boss, and Hank is, of course, pushing Gomez to pursue the lead that Skyler was setting up. So, they're investigating it now, blah, blah, blah. But Walter and Gus finally have their standoff, and you know what happens? Walter does it. He kills Gus. Gus shoots him in both shoulders, in both knees, and at both of his ears. But Walter is wearing protective padding all over so he doesn't get hurt, and he shoots Gus. Which Gus is like, whatever, like I'm wearing protective padding everywhere too. Gus actually gets shot in the head, but it doesn't work because it was protective padding. But the thing is that when he shoots the gun, when Walter shoots the gun, he actually shoots a laser beam with the gun, and all of the birds in the desert go at Gus and they eat him alive. It's honestly too gruesome. I'm just going to move past it. It is too gruesome. But then Jesse gets alarming news because his close friend Gus, of course, was just killed, and he also learns that Gus was basically trying to kill him anyway, and also um, Mike, Jesse's girlfriend, was one of the 500 people who were killed, which is literally completely tragic and ruins Jesse. It is yet another person in his life that is killed. So that's really sad. And the final episode is Face Off. Oh, after their plan to kill Gus fails, Walt and Jesse must act fast if they are to avoid being killed in revenge. Okay, so I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Really? Like, I thought that Gus was actually killed last time. Nope, it actually was Gas. Yeah, it actually was Gas that time too. So now this time, they actually have to kill Gus. And they do. Let's move on to season 5. Okay, sorry. Now let's wrap back up to the Skylar plotline with Hank. So, what exactly is Skylar's plan to get Hank off her trail? Well, Skylar actually uses a manipulation spell. She has this flute that she got from Saul, um, like a long time ago. It's called a manipulation flute, and she plays it, and it's like and it plays a beautiful melody, and it hypnotizes Hank into believing that she and Walter are innocent. And because the only lead that he has is her and Walter, then that means that he no longer is going forwards on any leads for this case, and the case is called off. Yep. Thank God for that flute. Next is season 5, the final season of Breaking Bad. And as we can see, Gus is at the top. He killed Walter's at the top. He killed Gus. He killed Crazy Eight. He killed Tuco. He even killed Mike. It was revealed that he was the one who killed Mike. He did everything. He killed Jane. He is a cold hard killer. And you know what's coming up? Election season. Yup. So I hope you're excited to see what's really going to happen in the final season of Breaking Bad. Let's see how many episodes there are. Ooh, it's 16 episodes and it's got a it's like two parts, so like basically two seasons in one. Get excited. Live free or die. In the wake of Gus Fring's violent death, Walt and Jesse look to destroy the evidence of their work in the meth lab that had already been confiscated by the police. So yeah, the police have found Gus's little lab or whatever. Hank is not personally involved, but like the police are still aware of like the lab and Gus's stuff, which isn't a big deal. Walter and Jesse just destroy their stuff and it's not a big deal. The big part of this episode is actually, as you can see, we get some more Saul action here. She's in the background right here. We see her on a date. This episode is actually all about Saul and her new life. Now that she is away from everything. So that's exciting. She loves to live. She lives free or she dies, and she's living free now because she's rich, and she has actually moved to a new country. So that's exciting for her. And it's like a very one-off episode, but it's really fun. I really enjoy it. So hyped about that. Next, of course, is Madrigal, which introduces my second favorite character, Lydia. Yup, Lydia. I love Lydia. She works at Madrigal, and she's awesome. But the description is, after cleaning up the final traces of evidence connecting them to the meth ring's deadly end, Walt and Jesse look to Mike to help rebuild the drug lab. That's right. They're going to try to revive Mike now. They want to set up their own drug stuff. By the way, season 5 is a little bit slow. They have more to work with, and they kind of don't have as far to go in the beginning. So these get like pretty simple, but I'm just going to go through them. So, um, they're like, um, they want to like build their own thing now. They're going to use the car wash to build their own little meth drug lab or whatever. Um, but they don't really know anybody who can help them, so they tried to revive Mike in this episode, but unfortunately, Jesse's bond to Mike mysteriously wasn't strong enough to revive him. And it's like, I wonder why. Like, that's a little bit weird. Like, I wonder why Jesse's bond with Mike wasn't strong enough. Well, we'll get back to that later, but Next is hazard pay. As Walt comes up with an ingenious plan for their new lab, he worries that their new partner, Mike, may be taking advantage of him and Jesse. Meanwhile, Skylar's sudden outburst at work has her sister, Marie, worried. Well, let's look at some photos for this episode. Let's see. Okay, so we've got, okay. Ugh. So here's Jesse, here's Walter, and here's Mike. And you might be like, isn't she dead? Um, uh, Throwback to their old outfits. Um, okay, look. So Mike is dead, like permanently, like she can't come back. But, but that being said, they do, okay, it's pretty late into the show. They're kind of losing and a good idea of what to do. This is a very controversial plot line, but unfortunately, what ends up happening is that they used a animation spell on Mike's body because they're like, oh, we could just reanimate him. Like, that'll make him be alive again. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. He is not alive again. He is a completely different person that is just in the old Mike's body. And I'm saying he because he no longer is Mike a she, no longer is Mike 26. Mike is now 1 day old and a boy. It's really weird. But this new Mike is like, yeah, let's build this lab. And um, Walter is like, I really don't know about this. But Jesse is like, my girlfriend is back. He's like too blinded to see the truth. And Skylar freaks out at work because she's really stressed out because her car wash situation is unfortunately really, it's really like taking a toll on her. The fact that the car wash is actually secretly a front for drugs now is really stressing her out. And Maria's like, "What's wrong? Are you hiding anything?" Because remember they did that spell with the flu on Hank, so that Hank wouldn't remember anything. But Marie knows that that investigation was going somewhere. So Marie's like, "What's the trouble, sister? Cat got your tongue?" And we'll see where that goes. Also, want to say this episode is 2 days after I turned 8. I watched it 2 days after I turned 8, and I loved it. Next is 51. Um, oh, I bet you're all excited about this. You were probably like, where did the Dia go? Where did the Dia go? As the Dia closes in on the German company that supplied the meth lab, Walt looks to head off Skylar's efforts to have their kids removed from the house. So here's the deal. The Dia is a character that was mostly in season 1 and then was kind of like shelved after that. But because the show's coming to an end, they were like, we really didn't tie up loose ends with the Dia, so they're bringing the Dia back. And um, the Dia is investigating the fact that the new lab that they're building was made with a German company called Lake. And Lake, the German company, has been supplying stuff for the meth lab, which the Dia is like she's had her eyes on the meth lab for a while, so she's like, I can't handle this anymore. I mean, sorry. The Dia has had her eyes on this German company Lake for a while, so she's like, I can't handle this. I'm just coming back to like this Walter White guy. I need to take him down. And at the same time, Walter and Skylar are really thinking of getting their kids out of the house because they're very stressed out about everything that's going on with this stuff with the Dia and the new lab and the fact that um their you know car wash is being used for the drugs. Skylar's really against all of this, but she's very scared of Walter, so she's just letting it happen to her. Honestly, their relationship is kind of taking a back seat now. The show kind of sucks, and I hate it. I mean, I love it. Um, Also, today, this is Walter's 51st birthday. And the next episode is Dead Freight. Um, with a with With the Diaz investigation threatening to shut them down, Walt, Jesse, and Mike devise an ingenious plan to fuel their meth lab. Meanwhile, Skylar makes her cooperation contingent on setting the kids to live with Marie and Hank. Yup, this episode honestly is a little bit of like, it's really just focusing on setting up a lot of ideas. I wish I had a little bit more to say, but it kind of is just setting up a lot of ideas. The Dia is still going after them. Um, they have figured out a way to implicate Lake without implicating them. I don't really remember how, but it happened. And Skylar is um Skylar is now fully working with Heisenberg again, a little bit as their treasurer again, a little bit. It's only a little bit, but like still. Um, she's like Walter is like, it'll all be over soon. I'm almost at the top. I've almost got the serum, please. And then Skylar's like, okay, I will be your treasurer for like a little bit. And then, but like while we're doing it, the kids can't live with us. Nobody can know anything. And it has to be quick. And Walter's like, deal. Next is buyout. Following their deadly train heist, Mike and Jesse propose selling the methylamine to a competitor and getting out of the drug business, but Walt refuses to go along. So this is when, so like both Jesse and this new animated corpse Mike, Mike's a zombie. Mike doesn't really need eternal life. Jesse wants to die one day. He doesn't really need the serum, but Walt does want it. So they do a deadly train heist, and then Jesse and Mike are like, okay, like we have so much money. Honestly, we almost got caught by the Dia. She's really scary. Like, let's just get this over with. Let's just sell everything and then be done. And Walter is like, no, I need the serum. I need the power. Um, and Mike is like, well, actually, as a zombie who has been animated, I actually know that there is a way for you to live forever. And then Walter was like, I don't care about living forever. He like admits it in this episode. He's like, I don't care about living forever. I want to be on top. So next is Say My Name. This episode is actually a another collaboration episode. You know how they collab with Better Call Saul? They actually collabed in this episode with Descendants. Well, I'll show you Descendants. So Descendants is a Disney Channel series, and there's this character named Uma. She is the daughter of Ursula, and she's awesome, and she has an iconic song in the second and fourth movie called What's My Name, where she's like, What's my name? What's my name? And the answer is Uma because that's her name. And this episode is actually a collab. Say my name. Uma shows up and she's like, say my name. And Jesse's like, Uma. And Walter's like, what the heck? How do you know who this is? And then Jesse's like, because, and we'll get to that. Let's just read the description for now. As Walt unveils his new plan to keep all the hijacked chemicals and expand his business, the Dia investigation closes in on Mike. The Dia has found zombie Mike. And the Dia reveals her real name is Uma. Yup. Yeah. And we learn that The DIA stands for Dead Exploration Appellation. Yup. Appellation of which means name. It is her Dead Exploration Appellation. It is her name for when she explores and investigates, and the, and and it's her name for when she explores and investigates death and crime. Yep, but her real name is Uma. Yeah, from Descendants. And it turns out that Jesse has actually known Uma for a long time. I mean, he's like, I can't believe that it was Uma. Uma was the Dia, this person following us since the start. And it turns out that Uma is actually Jesse's little sister. It is really sad when they confront each other. Uma is like, Jesse, our mother Ursula never would have wanted to see you like this. And Jesse's like, I can't control it. This is who I am. And Uma's like, well, you know who I am? I am the Dia, and I'm going to take you down. And suddenly Walter is like, we have to kill her. We have to kill Uma. And Jesse's like, we can't. We can't. And that's when Mike has an idea. Mike is like, deanimate me. And so they do. It's over. They can't, as much as Mike has become a close friend to them, they cannot handle all of the drama that he's caused. He has caused the Dia slash Uma to get close to them. Now Jesse is stressed out um because he has to potentially kill his little sister Uma from Descendants, and he none of them can handle it, so they all together agree to deanimate Mike. And then Walter is like, if you're not going to kill Uma, I will. And then Jesse's like, please, no. I know that you kill people all the time, but please don't let someone I care about die. Please don't let someone I care about die. And Walter's like, fine, then what do you say that we do? And in a tragic moment, Jesse confronts Uma and deanimates her. She is unconscious and unable to speak or even think until somebody reanimates her, which I'm just going to say does not happen for the rest of the show. The Dia slash Uma has been defeated. Next is gliding all over the mid-season finale. After disposing of Mike's body, Walt sets out to eliminate anyone who could tie him to the Fring investigation. And as a new global partnership makes them richer than ever, Skylar wonders how much money is enough. So basically, this is really the moment where Walter loses everything. I mean, not loses everything, but like loses everything inside of himself. He loses all inhibitions. Um, he Skylar is annoying him, being like, "I'm the treasurer, and I know that we have $500 billion now. Like, let's really stop it." And he's like, "I can't stop. I don't want to stop. It's not about the money. It's not about the family. It's about everything else." And Skylar's like, "What? But I thought it was about our family. I love our family." And Walter's like, "F our family." And that really is the nail in the coffin. Like, Skylar is very, very upset hearing that. And she's like, fine, then I'll just talk to Hank about it. I'll tell someone. And he's like, you're going to tell them that you were the treasurer for Heisenberg and that you were Heisenberg briefly? And she, like, pauses. She realizes that she's in too deep, too. Walter has all the control. At the beginning of the episode, we get a sequence where a bunch of side characters who knew about him being part of Gus's operation, he just lures them places and kills them. All these side characters just completely killed off all at once. He's really lost it. He really wants to be the top. He wants to be everything that Gus was. And Skylar is caught in the middle of it. She's caught as the other half, and she doesn't know what to do. She's petrified. And that's where the midseason ends. Next is blood money. Oh yeah, there's a flash forward where Walter arrives in his abandoned house to grab a vial of like ricin or whatever. All I'm going to say is that goes like nowhere. Like it does go somewhere, but like just pretend it never happened. Pretend you didn't even read it. But it has in fact been a year. Like in the modern day, it's been a year. But in the present, which is now a year forward from the mid-season finale, Hank requests all files of the Frink case and matches the handwriting in Walter's copy of Leaves of Grass with Gail's handwriting. So Gail is somebody who was a chemist who was working with Gus, and um, during the investigation of everything into stuff with Gus, Hank figures out that something in Walter's like copy of like a book is the exact same handwriting as this Gale person. And he's like, oh, that's weird, but it doesn't mean anything. And then Maria's like, no, it does mean something. What's wrong with you? Walter has to be involved in this. And he's like, no, I don't know. Like maybe he just isn't. And that's when Marie realizes that flute in Skylar's house is not a normal flute. That is a manipulation flute. So she pulls out her demanipulation harp and she strums it and she strums it and it snaps Hank out of the spell and he immediately is like, oh my god, not only is Walter complicit, but Skylar hypnotized me with a manipulation flute. And Hank and Marie, they have new targets. Confessions. Jesse refuses to cut a deal with Hank. Walt's attempts to negotiate with Hank fail, and Walt uses a DVD to implicate Hank as the mastermind of the methamphetamine business. This is where things get really crazy. This is the climax portion of Breaking Bad, finally, after all this time. So, it is now basically completely known to Hank and Marie that Walter and Skylar and Jesse are all involved in this situation. And they sit down together and they have a conversation where Walter and Skylar are like, what can we do? Like, do you want money? Like, how do you want these things to go? And Hank is like, I really don't want any of that. I want justice. I want peace. And Walter's even like, do you want the serum? And Hank's like, no way. And Marie's like, you should kill yourself and I hate you. And then everybody's like, whatever, Marie, because they don't take her seriously. All I'm going to say is that they should take her seriously. But we'll get to that. Um, there's this huge tension where everybody in this little world knows exactly what's going on, but they need just a little bit more evidence. And so Walt gives them that evidence. Walt Walt confirms that it was his drug money that paid for the recovery of Hank's little illness thing with Tuco. And he's like, Hank knew about it the entire time. He was taking the money. Why else would he take $5 million from me if he didn't think that, if like he didn't know that it was me? And he's like, I will, like, this DVD will be revealed to the public if you reveal who I am. And and Hank is like, that's crazy. Um, and Walter gives this DVD to Hank as evidence that admits to the fact that he is Heisenberg. However, since that DVD also admits to the fact that Hank was involved, if Hank turns it in, Hank would be implicating himself and he would wrongfully go to prison. And he's like, no, what do I do? So now we're moving on to Rabid Dog. Yes, this is another great episode. We're really gearing up to the finale. This is the start of the real climax of the show. So, Walt finds Saul's car crashed in his driveway and his house unoccupied and doused in gasoline. So, Walt leaves a message on Jesse's voicemail to me in order to explain himself. This is a lot going on here, and this despite the fact that Walter doesn't know, we also don't know anything about what's going on here. Your first question might be, which Saul? Is it Saul from Better Call Saul, or is it Skylar's boss Saul? It is Skylar's boss. even though she left, even though she's been long gone, she is back. Weirdly, seems to have doused their house in gasoline and is now gone. Without Skylar. Skylar's not here at all, so immediately Walter is thinking that Skylar either ran away with Saul or was kidnapped by Saul. We're going to talk about the second half in a second, but we actually get to personally see a flashback about halfway through the episode where we see what happened, and it turns out that Skylar was at the house alone, having fun as she always does. One of her new hobbies has actually been building little minifigures of fencers, so she's been doing that, and she needed to go out to the store, so she did, and that's when Saul came. She sped down the street and crashed into the driveway, and she pulled out this big tank of gasoline and busted down the door and started pouring it everywhere. And right when she was about to fumble to take a match out, you know who was there? Kafkaesque. Kafkaesque the dog was snarling and was biting and was being really creepy because it could smell all that gasoline. And when Kafkaesque is there, you know that Hank and Marie are not that far behind. So Hank and Marie were like, "What's going on? What's with this creepy smell that our dog can tell about?" And unfortunately, this is Kafkaesque's final stand because Saul shoots a rabies arrow at Kafkaesque, and Kafkaesque gets rabies. Initially, of course, Hank and Marie do not understand that that's exactly what's happening. So Saul hides out in the house after shooting Kafkaesque. Hank and Marie are like, "Oh my God, our dog is acting weird. Let's go to the hospital." And that distracts them for long enough that Saul can try to light the house on fire. But lo and behold, Walter Jr. is there. And he's like, "Hello, who are you? Why are you at this house? Please don't burn it down." And Saul is like, "Who are you?" And then Walter Jr. is like, "I'm Walter Jr. And here's my boyfriend Forsyth." And then Forsyth is like, "Hello." And there's this really interesting heart-to-heart scene between Skylar's ex-boss Saul and Walter Jr., where Walter Jr. is like, "I'm really confused about stuff going on in my family. My parents are really weird, and I don't know who you are, how you know them, but they're not bad people. I know them, they're not bad people. Please don't burn down this house." And Saul is really stunned by this. She doesn't have much of a visible reaction. She's just like staring at him, and then she runs away. And she leaves her car there, and she's just gone. And we see this as the viewers, but Walter has no idea what's going on. He does not recognize Saul's car. I think that's important to note. He doesn't know what it looks like. It's iconic to us, the viewers, but he doesn't know what it looks like. So he immediately assumes that it's Jesse. He thinks that Jesse is the one who came to his house and tried to light it on fire because he thinks that Jesse probably figured out that he let his GF Jane die that one time. There's so much going on that it's hard to really mention everything, but that is like a secret that has been brought up a few times recently. Um, Walter is really paranoid about everything coming out, all of his secrets coming out. So he's just paranoid about another one of his secrets coming out where one of his close friends um, is going to figure out this really bad thing going on. So he leaves a voicemail being like, "Jesse, please, I'll explain everything if you just meet me. Just meet me somewhere, and then I explain everything." And that's what leads us into episode 13, To'Hajiilee. And this episode, well, okay, let's read the description to start. Um, Walt calls Todd to negotiate a hit on Jesse, and Todd's uncle agrees on the condition that Walt cooks again for Todd to observe. Elsewhere, Hank attempts to learn the whereabouts of Walter's money through Huel. Okay, a lot going on here. You might be asking who is Huel and who is Todd? Huel is Walter's um ex-boyfriend from college who has been helping him launder money because they're still friends. And Todd is actually running for president. Yes, we're bringing back a lot of stuff with Barack Obama because Todd is actually the Republican representative for the presidential race of 2013. If you don't know the United States of America, the way that the presidency and the presidential race works is that in November of an election year, which 2013 was, there are two parties. One is the Republican Party and one is the Democrat Party, and they face off against each other. Barack Obama served for 1 4-year term, so he was running again, and Todd is running against him. Todd's last name, of course, is Bila. No, I'm cut that out. Um, and thankfully, so you might be like, if Todd's running for president, why is Walter calling him to negotiate a hit on Jesse? And at first, this might seem that Walter wants to put a hit on Jesse, which that means like wants to get him killed. But actually, no. Todd, the Republican candidate for the election, wants Jesse to die and actually put a hit on him with his uncle Snod. Uncle Snod really wants Jesse dead because Jesse is actually um well, okay, two things. One, Jesse is transgender, and two, Jesse is actually very politically radical. He has really been like radically radicalizing recently. Uh, um, and he has become a threat to the United States of America, so Snod and Todd want him gone as soon as possible. Um, so the solution to that is that Walter is like, hey, I will let you record and observe and record me making meth so that you can use that to take me down so that you will be up in the polls if you let Jesse go. And they're like, okay, like we'll do it. Um, so that seems like it's going well. It seems like that's happening. It's a big deal because Walter's doing everything he can not to get caught right now. However, he is willing to let it happen for Jesse. He still thinks that Jesse might know about what he did with Jane, or at least he might know soon. So he's really stressed out about that. And he is trying his hardest to make it up to him by keeping Jesse out of prison because he loves Jesse as a son and a brother and a friend. Um, oh my god, I got a text. Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. However, there's a huge twist in this episode because as he is cooking some meth in a little pot, Snod reveals himself, and it turns out Snod is not actually named Snod. Real first name, Barack. Real last name, Obama. Yes. Barack Obama has finally made an appearance, and it is the real Barack Obama portraying himself. And he is like, Todd is running against me, and he will not be voted for because he is young and naive, and nobody will vote for somebody as naive as Todd. But I am his uncle, and no one knows I'm his uncle, so people will re-elect me. And then Walter is like, "Well, that's good. I'm gonna vote for you." and I support you in office. So like I'm actually okay with that. Then Barack Obama is like, yeah, well, I still have the footage, so you have to do what I want, or I'm going to reveal that you're Heisenberg to the whole city. I mean, the whole country. And then Walter White is like, no, I can't believe this. This really sucks. And then Barack Obama is like, I have an old friend named Diane that I need taken care of. If you can go help her out with her problems, then I'll let you go. So that's moving into next episode. This plotline, I'll be honest, it is nothing. It's like it doesn't even really happen in this episode. The like he's trying to figure out where Walter's money is as like more as like evidence for who he is. But it like kind of doesn't matter. The bigger deal is definitely what's going on with Skylar right now. Skylar got a call from a mysterious number, definitely either Saul or related to Saul, saying that things are about to get, quote, really bad for Heisenberg. And if Skylar wants a way out, she needs to take it now and she needs to go to a specific address at a specific time. Unknowingly, though, that is actually the exact same specific address and time that Walter gave Jesse to go meet him so that he could explain himself. Um, but then, of course, Walter was taken by Todd and Snod, who's actually Barack Obama, so he didn't meet that. So now Skylar and Jesse are meeting up at the same time at the same place, and this is the first time that they really talk in the whole show. And Jesse's like, I was supposed to meet Walter here. And then Skylar is like, I thought I was supposed to meet my ex-lover Saul here. And it turns out Saul set up them meeting each other so they could exchange information. There is a little envelope in the place where they're supposed to be meeting. And in that envelope, it reveals all the secrets. It reveals secrets of an affair that Walter had sometime around season 2. It reveals secrets of every single person that Walter had a hand in killing, including photographs and videos of Walter killing Mike and Gus and Gas and Giss. Things that Jesse knew, but Skylar didn't. Things that Skylar knew, but Jesse didn't. And the big thing, something that neither of them knew, is Jane. There is evidence that Walter did in fact know about what happened to Jane. And by the end of this, Jesse and Skylar together, they're like, this is effing crazy. We like don't like this at all. We don't like that Walter did this. We need to confront him together. So that's what they're doing right now. Meanwhile, Walter has to go meet with Diane. So let's see what happens next in Ozymandias. This is the big one. Not everyone survives the gun battle in the desert, and Marie tells Skylar that Walt has been arrested, slash, Walt wants his family to flee with him. Okay. This is a lot of vague information because they could not explain what happens in this episode in this little description, so I'm just going to let you know. So Hank does find Walter's money. He finds proof, and he gets a tip about a woman named Diane that he needs to meet. Within the money is a little card for Diane. And he's like, who's this Diane? What's going on? Meanwhile, of course, Walter is going to Diane to meet with her. He doesn't know who Diane is, but he's going to meet with her for Barack Obama. And Skylar and Jesse are trying to track down Walter so that before anything can happen, before anything blows up, which it feels like it will really soon, they can at least talk to him about stuff and figure out what to do from there because they need to figure out if that information is true and they need to figure out what they're going to do with that information if it is true. And Skylar is honestly like, maybe we should like just run away And then Jesse is like, maybe we should kill him. And Skylar's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Um, Unfortunately, though, nothing goes as planned. When Walter goes to the desert to meet with Diane, Diane is in fact there, but Diane is in fact there, but Diane is not who she says she is. Diane, in fact, is Gretchen, that colleague that he and Skylar were meeting up with that one time, the woman who helped pay for his treatment that one time that he never paid back. Gretchen is the mastermind behind this whole operation. Gretchen is above even Barack Obama. Gretchen is above Gus, is above Mike, is above everyone. Gretchen is at the top, and she has summoned both Walter and Hank into the desert. As soon as they both get there, there are guns everywhere, and Gretchen is like, I know all your dirty little secrets, the both of you. I know that, Hank, I know that you're racist, and I know that you're a bad, evil cop. And Walter, I know that you are Heisenberg, and I know that you're a bad, evil drug man. And they're both like, whoa, 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 Gretchen, let's talk about this. Because they've kind of known Gretchen for a long time, but it's mostly like Skylar and Marie that have known Gretchen. And Gretchen is like, everybody shut up. My name is Gretchen Diane, and I'm the one who calls the shots now. You guys killed my BFF Gus. You guys de-animated my second BFF Uma. And Hank is like, what? It's like, I didn't do this. I didn't have any part in it. And Gretchen is like, you helped foster patriarchy within your family, and you helped foster patriarchy within Walter by giving him this competition. And he wouldn't have been pushed this far if it wasn't for you. And Hank is like, I really don't know about that. But Walter's like, no, it's true. Like, I loved our boy competition. And Gretchen's like, I knew it. Meanwhile, of course, we are seeing that Skylar and Jesse are trying to figure stuff out. They meet up with Maria, and Maria's like, Skylar, ugh, look what the cat dragged in. Get out of my sight. And Skylar is like, what's going on? Where's Hank? I wanted to talk to him about stuff with Walter. I have some more evidence against him. Now she is anti-Walter, and so is Jesse. They're both like, we have evidence against him. We want him gotten. And Maria's like, oh, well, Hank went to go, like, visit this woman named Diane in the desert. And Skylar and Jesse are like, Diane, we don't know this person. Let's also go to this address. So now the three of them, Marie, Skylar, and Jesse, they're all going to the desert with with Walter and Hank and Gretchen. And Gretchen is doing like an evil villain monologue. She's like, yeah, I hate you boys, and I'm going to kill both of you. I'm going to kill both of you right now. And you know what she does? She kills Hank right there. Hank is just dead on the ground. Unceremoniously, he is dead in the desert. And Walter hates it. He's very upset because despite the fact that family was not the most important thing to him, family was a very important facade to him. Hank was a very important member of that familial facade. And Hank, in a way, was the family member that was motivating him the most to keep going forward. And he's seen Hank through so much, and now he's just dead right next to him in the desert. And Gretchen is like, yeah, whatever, not missed by me. Um, a bunch of other cops show up, some other mean, misogynistic side characters show up, and they're all also immediately shot dead. And Walter is like alive, of course. Um, and she's like, I'm saving you for last. I want to do a little bit more with you. I want to talk to you, or I want to make a short film about you. So she makes a short film. She starts filming her short film because she loves filmography. Um, which like that's how Saul got all of those like photos and videos of stuff that um Walter was doing because Saul is a protege of Gretchen and was secretly a double agent working for Gretchen the whole time. And I know that this all sounds out of nowhere, but it really was foreshadowed. Gretchen doesn't show up like ever, but it was foreshadowed that everybody's working for Gretchen. Anyway, Marie, Skylar, and Jesse, they go towards the desert. Marie gets a call from Hank's phone where Hank, who is dying on the ground, is like, I got Walter. He's been arrested. Like, I got him. I got him. Um, Unfortunately, that's not true, but of course, Gretchen was forcing him to do it because she was like, I'll kill your wife if you don't say this. Um, and the reason why is because, oh my God, it's so complicated. It works better in the show where like everything is being laid out, but I'll try to explain it really quickly. He was going out to meet with this woman named Diane so that he could catch Walter. Walter and him are both going to be missing. So if he calls Marie being like, I caught Walter and he's been arrested and I'm going to handle him, then it will seem like something must have happened between them where now Walter is missing and Hank is dead instead of a woman named Gretchen was the one who killed him in the desert. It's like a way for her to cover her tracks. Anyway, when Maurice, Skylar, and Jesse get to the desert, there's a lot of drama because they're like, I can't believe that Hank is dead. Marie takes it extremely hard because that is her husband. And she's like, no, first my dog is rabid. Now my husband is dead. This is the worst day of my life. And Skylar is like, this is so scary. I can't believe all these people are dead. And Jesse's like, whatever, I've kind of been in this situation before. But Jesse's really mad about the stuff that happened with Jane. He immediately confronts Walter, being like, did this thing with Jane happen? And Walter um, is like, no, of course not. That isn't true. It's all a lie. And Gretchen's like, all you know how to do is lie because you're lying right now. And, blah, blah, blah. Um, there's a lot of drama between the White family and Jesse, and Gretchen is not going to kill anybody. Skylar's like, Gretchen, why are you such a killer? And Gretchen's like, whatever, I've pent up rage against men and the world. And Skylar's like, me too. So like I kind of get it. And Maria's like, yeah, like I get it too, but like this is a little bit too far. And Gretchen's like, whatever, like don't tell me what's too far. These men kill each other all the time, so why can't I be a part of that? And it's like, okay, like then the women are like, okay, like I kind of get it. And Jesse's also like, I also kind of get it. I'm misogyny affected. Like I've lived my life as a man for a long time, but of course I'm still a transgender man, so like I get it. And Walter's like, stop, everybody stop. I hate hearing you talk about this. And then all of them together are like, oh my God, of course, Walter White, the man, would say that, the cisgender man. Like, they're all annoyed by him. And then Walter is like, let's get out of here. He like pulls Skylar and Jesse aside and he's like, let's get out of here. We can grab Walter Jr. and the baby and we can just leave Albuquerque. We can leave New Mexico. We have money. We can do this. We just need to take out Gretchen. And then Skylar is like, no way. I don't really want to do that. Um, like, let's calm down. And then it actually cuts to Marie. We see Marie just standing there. Gretchen is watching. Gretchen's like troops are watching. And Marie is just sort of in the middle of the circle watching like Walter and his family talking about stuff. And she's looking between everyone and she's looking at the guns of everyone. And there's just a lingering shot on that. I just want to mention that because it matters to me and it matters for the story. Um, Ultimately, though, and I can't believe I have to say this, ultimately, Skylar and Jesse are both convinced to go with Walter and to flee as far as possible. And they agree to take out Gretchen, and they do. Skylar holds her ankles, Jesse holds her arms, and Walter pulls the trigger, and Gretchen is dead in the desert. Not everyone survives the gun battle in the desert. Of course, that is referring to Gretchen. Unfortunately, also all of the troops were actually they were actually animated statues that were tied to Gretchen's consciousness. So as Gretchen dies, all the troops also die because they were basically just like they were being controlled by her and they didn't exist without her. So it is now just Skylar, Jesse, Walter, and Marie, Skylar, Walter, and Jesse, um, they decide to run away, but Maria's like, no, like Hank is dead. My dog is rabid, and Skylar is crazy and loves cats, and I can't handle this family being broken apart in this way. You all need to either die or get arrested right now. And Marie goes to grab a gun so that she could do something, but Skylar knocks her out. Skylar actually like unsheaths like some crazy cat claws and starts scratching Marie until she's passing out. It's very dramatic. And they decide to just dump Marie's body back at her house, and then they're going to flee the country, or at least the state. And that's what happens. Now we move on to Granite State. Walt seeks Saul's help in getting his money back. Saul urges Walt to turn himself in, and Walt struggles with his new identity and his new home in New Hampshire. This is the penultimate episode of the series. It is much more of a slow episode after the craziness that was the last episode. It does get more crazy in the finale, but this is a more slow episode. It takes place actually over the span of 6 entire months. So like it starts on September 22nd, but it takes place over 6 months. We do in fact see during the 6 month time period that Barack Obama was reelected. And during his acceptance speech, he's like, I am so sad that my BFF Gretchen is not here to see this. And it is a really sad scene. Um, Yet again, this Saul does not refer to Saul from Better Call Saul. Like I said, he's not in this show very much. He doesn't matter that much. This is actually Saul of like Skylar's ex-boss. So Walter and Saul barely have a relationship throughout the show, but at the beginning of this episode, Skylar and Jesse are just hanging out at the house, which is still covered in gasoline. Marie is passed out. They don't have much time. They are convincing Walter Jr. to leave with them. They're like, we'll explain everything. Jesse's a new member of our family, new family member. And like, we're going to leave together right now. And Walter Jr. really doesn't want to. He doesn't want to leave his boyfriend Forsyth behind, but Skylar is like, we have to do this. You don't understand. We have to do this. It's like a toxic moment from her as a toxic mother. And it's like, it's kind of understandable because it's like she's an abused woman, but like it's too far. Like she's really losing it. Things are really tense because Walter Jr. can't leave behind his awesome boyfriend Forsyth. Anyway, while that's happening, Walter's actually talking to Saul. Skylar still has Saul's like a number to reach Saul, um, and hasn't used it, but now she's like, we need to talk to Saul. She's like one of the only people who can help. And Walter, of course, knows Saul because Saul was working for him as a double agent for Gretchen, but still working for him. And Walter's like, Skylar's with me. Skylar and I are running away. We need to get some of that money that she lent you back. So that's what happens. But Saul is like, Walter, you should turn yourself in and let your family run free because they are awesome and you are evil and I hate you, Walter. And then Walter is like, no, Skylar won't accept that. That's not what's going to happen. That's not what Skylar wants. So Saul does give up $40 million to Walter. And then the rest of the episode takes place with all of them living in a little cabin in New Hampshire. It's very remote. They don't really like it there. It's very small. They are not happy, but they all live in this small little cabin in New Hampshire. Um, until one day, Walter Jr. runs away. But because they're living this life on the run, they like deleted their identities and stuff. They can't go out to look for Walter Jr. They can't. And it is still going to be another 5 months until anybody comes to check on them. And in those in 5 months, when somebody comes to check on them, they can be like, Walter Jr. ran away. But until then, they can't do that. They can't risk that. They're in a cabin in a very remote place where they don't even really know where to go. And as you can see, it is very snowy and winter-like, so they could be sick and die. But so could Walter Jr., and they're very scared of that. And that leads us into Felina, the final episode of Breaking Bad. Walter makes one last attempt to secure his family's future while also visiting some old enemies during his final return to Albuquerque. So this is it. This is the end. A lot happens in this episode, so we're going to get right into it. Since Walter Jr. has ran away, Walter knows that if he was able to go away, there was only one place that he would go to, and that, of course, is Albuquerque. He, like, if Walter Jr. survived, he would have gone back to Albuquerque for Forsyth. So, Walter, Jesse, and Skylar, they all together decide to go back to Albuquerque. Um, they take weapons where they can in case anybody comes. They take a hidden little gun, like Walter takes a hidden little gun that had been stashed in the cabin. Jesse takes a lantern that has fire in it, obviously. And Skylar takes a fire tong for stoking a fire. And they all hitch rides to Albuquerque. It's a whole sequence, it doesn't really matter. Um, and they get there and then they're like, now what? Like, where can we look? They go back to their old house, but it's already been resold. There's a different family living there. Um, they try to peek in on Marie, but they can't really see anything. They don't know if Walter Jr. would be there, so they have to go, of course, to Forsyth's house. Um, and they don't see anything at first, but right before they leave, they see Walter Jr. walking past the house, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's him! We need to get him now." Um, but that's when some old enemies pop up. A lot of the like drug guys that were working for like Gus and stuff definitely still have it out for Walter, and they spot him and they're like, we need to take down Heisenberg. Those three people, Walter, Skylar, and Jesse, that is what makes up Heisenberg, and we need to take all three of them down right now. There's a fight sequence in which Walter is very quick to kill a lot of them, and Skylar is screaming. She's like, no, don't kill them, don't kill them. Jesse is very like blank during all of this. It really shows like these three people and how they feel about death. Um, Ultimately, they do get away. I think they just needed an action sequence in the finale, but they do get away. Um, and here is when we have a big scene. It is just Skylar and Walter in this scene. Walter Jr. is being secured by Jesse. Jesse managed to catch up to him and brought him into like an alleyway. Um, Skylar is like, Walter, I can't believe you would kill those people in front of me. And I saw the look in your eyes. You were enjoying it. You're evil. And Walter's like, yes, I'm evil, obviously, but it doesn't matter anymore because this is what our family is like. You said it yourself. If this is the choice that I'm going to make for our family to go down this route, then you have to adapt. And Walter Jr. needs to adapt. And Jesse needs to adapt. And Hank couldn't adapt, and that's why he's dead. And Marie couldn't adapt, and that's why she's not with us. And Skylar suddenly realizes just how far all of this has gone. Her very own son, Walter Jr., um, who is so young, he is still just a teenager, had to run away all the way from New Hampshire to go to New Mexico. Is that where they live? To go to Albuquerque. Um, because he needs to run away not just from Walter. It's not just Walter who's the bad one now, it's also her. They're both evil. Just because Walter has done worse things doesn't mean Skylar hasn't done bad things too. And finally she says to him, this isn't a family anymore. We haven't been a family for a long time. We might not have even been a family the moment you decided to get into this business, and we sure as hell stopped the moment I decided to get into it too. And God knows that Walter Jr. isn't going to grow up in a so-called family that takes him away from his friends, from his boyfriend, from his website, to bring him up to New Hampshire and hide away in a cabin for God knows how long. This isn't a family, Walter. You held me hostage, and now I'm holding Walter Jr. hostage too. And what about baby Skylar Jr.? What about him? Because he's going to grow up. Do you really want him to grow up in that little cabin? What's the long-term goal here, Walter? When can this end? When are we going to just live? And Walter doesn't have an answer because there is no answer. There is no world in which Heisenberg can exist and the family can exist. There is no world in which both of them are alive. And so Walter admits it. Walter says, "You're right. I've known for a long time that this isn't going to work, but I've held on to it because I can't be alone." And Skylar's like, "Bull. Yeah, whatever. You were fine being alone when you kept all these secrets from me." And Walter says, "You're right. I know. But what do you suppose we do instead?" And Skylar doesn't have an answer, and he doesn't have an answer. The two of them just stare at them for a second. And that's when Jesse and Walter Jr. come bursting in. Walter Jr. is scrambling and squabbling. He is trying to get out of Jesse's grip, and Jesse is like, "No, stop. We're a family." And then Walter is like, "Stop, Jesse, stop. Just let him go." And then Walter kneels down and he looks at his son in his face. His son is terrified. And he says, "Walter Jr., you're free. Don't say a word of this to anyone. If any police officers come, you tell them that you have no idea where we are. We just dropped you off here. And you're not going to know where we are because we're not going back to that cabin. We're not even going to be in the country. You're not going to see us again." And while this is happening, Skylar is like, "Wait, stop, Walt, stop." And she's like, "I don't want to abandon our son. We can't choose this life over him." And then Walter, of course, screams at her. He's like, "We already chose this life. We already chose the power. We already chose the money. We chose this over our family. So what? Now we deal with it." And Skylar says, "Maybe you chose it, Walter. Maybe this has always been more important than family to you. But I can't live with that for the rest of my life." And she leaves. She grabs Walter Jr.'s hand, she looks him in the eyes, and she says, "I am so sorry, honey bun," because that's what she calls him. "I am so sorry, honey bun. I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that I did this to you. Please go to Aunt Marie. We'll go together, and we'll figure this out as a family." And Walter Jr. is like, "Okay." And Jesse's like, "What the hell are you doing? Stop." They say "what the hell" a lot in the show. But eventually, Skylar and Walter Jr. do leave together to go to Marie's house to go to talk to her. Walter and Jesse are left alone. Jesse is like, "What is she doing? Are they crazy?" And Walter's like, "No, we're not leaving without them. They don't know it yet, but this is what's best for them. And if Marie is going to stand in our way, we're just going to have to take Marie down too." And Jesse's like, "I really don't know about that," but it's not like Jesse has anywhere else to go. So it's he and Jesse and Walter and Jr. and Skylar, and they're all going to Marie's house. Of course, first Skylar and Walter Jr. get there. Skylar says to Marie, like, "I'm sorry about that we left. I know that you have to turn me in. Walter Jr. shouldn't be a part of this. Please take care of him. Please make sure everything's okay." And Walter Jr. is like, "Mom, please don't leave me. Mom, please, I don't want you to go to jail." Maria's like, "What's going on? Why are you here? Where have you been all this time?" Like, lots of drama is going on. And that's when Walter and Jesse come in. Walter is holding out the gun. Jesse is holding the lantern. Of course, Skylar still has that little fire stoker. She is pointing it at Walter. He is pointing the gun at Marie. He's like, "If you get anywhere near me, um, he's like, if you come near me at all, if you try to do anything with that, I will shoot her dead right here." And Maria's like, "Oh my God, please don't shoot me." Walter Jr. is crying and screaming. Jesse's hands are shaking. He doesn't know what to do. Skylar looks bitter and impassioned, but she is shaking too. It is a tense moment, a family breaking down. Oh, and that is the moment, the Felina moment. Felina, if you don't know, it is a name. It is a name that refers to a cat feline, but it also refers to the concept of being lucky. And this is a lucky feline moment because guess who's there? Rising from the ashes. It's Phoenix. Phoenix scratches at Walter's Achilles heel, bringing him down on his knees, and that is the moment that Skylar strikes him across the face with the metal rod. She drops the rod to the ground, she grabs the gun from him, and she throws that to the ground too. She's terrified, she doesn't know what to do, she's scrambling. Walter's reaching out at her, he grabs her leg. Phoenix is still clawing at Walter, sinking his teeth into him, doing everything that he can to get Walter to stop, but Walter doesn't even feel the pain anymore. Everybody's screaming, everybody's yelling. Walter Jr. is sobbing, everybody is petrified, and that is the exact moment that a gunshot goes off. And then Walter falls to the ground. Walter is dead, and the person holding the gun is Marie. And Marie is shaking, and she tosses the gun onto the ground after that. Everybody's staring at her, but she just walks over to the phone, she dials 911, and she says into the receiver, Walter White is in my house. He's dead. Yeah. Marie is notably squeamish about blood and death, so after she says that into the receiver, she falls into Walter Jr.'s arms, who is there to catch her. Skylar takes over on the receiver, talking to the 911 operator. She is speaking very statically, despite the fact that she is visibly sobbing. She is just relaying all information. She is relaying the address. She's saying everything she possibly can. Walter Jr. is trying his best not to look at his dad. He is just holding on to Marie, clinging to her, despite the fact that she is unconscious. He's clinging to her as if she is the one comforting him. Phoenix is happily licking its little paw, like, yeah, I did that. The fire tongue is on the ground with the gun on top of it. And Jesse is right next to Walter's body. Jesse is kneeling over Walter's body, crying, and he's like, no, not Walter, not him, anything but him. I need to revive him. And Jesse, he starts to do the necromancy stuff. He's like, please, my friendship for him has to work, has to work, has to work. I know it's never worked before, but it has to work. And while the police are on their way, Skylar is like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? And then Jesse's like, I'm trying to revive him using necromancy magic. And then Skylar's like, what? Like, what? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And then Jesse's like, yeah, it is. And I know it. I learned it from my friend Skinny Pete. But it's never worked for me. Every time I've tried to use it, it hasn't worked because I haven't been good enough friends with anyone. Um, and Skylar's like what? And he's like, yes, it's always been other people's friendship. And that's when we learn that weirdly Jesse has apparently never felt true friendship with anyone that he's known. He was not able to revive Jane when she died because he didn't feel close enough to her. When Skinny Pete and Badger died off screen that one time, it was actually their friendship for each other that brought them back. It was not Jesse's friendship at all who has ever brought anybody back. And nobody else in this room has enough friendship with Walter White to revive him. It would have to be Jesse. But just like always, it's not working. And he is sobbing into Walter's body and he's like, please come back, please come back. And it's this big thing of like, why isn't Jesse close enough to any of these people? Why has he never been close enough to anyone in his life that he can bring them back like this? And that's a very interesting question. It does not get explicitly answered in the show, but it definitely has a lot to say about Jesse as a person. It has a lot to say about the way that he forms relationships and connections with people. There's just something about him that has blockaded him from having these like genuine raw emotions. And it's very interesting. So Walter, of course, is dead on the ground, and Skylar is not willing to give him a second chance. Marie is definitely not willing to give him a second chance. Jesse is trying to, but he can't muster it. It's only Walter Jr. Walter Jr., who this whole time just wants his family to come back. And he kneels over his father, and without even looking at him, he just puts his hands on his father's chest, and he cries, and a tear falls from his eye onto Walter's body, but nothing happens. There is nobody in Walter White's life that can bring him back from the dead. Every friend he's had, he's driven away or killed, and it's over for him. After that, we do see a little bit into the future. It's very brief, but we do see news reports about how this huge drug lord Heisenberg ended up being killed by just a woman, just his like sister-in-law of all people. Um, we see proof that Saul is doing all right for herself somewhere else. Skylar is unfortunately in prison. Walter Jr. is living with Marie. They are now a happy family together with both Phoenix and a couple dogs. Marie and Walter Jr. do go to visit Skylar sometimes. It Everything is twisted and tainted, and yet it's all calm now. There's no more danger, there's no more threat. Everything is okay. And that's where Breaking Bad leaves it. Um, that is the story of Breaking Bad. It is a beautiful story. It is a beautiful story about family and loss. It is a beautiful story about disability. I didn't really get into how it's about disability, but it is. It's about misogyny. It's even about like racism to some degree, which I also didn't get into, but it is. Um, and it's beautiful. Oh my God, I also watched this earlier. Here's my secret. For ever since the episode Rabbit Dog, I've been recording this in two other different sessions because I got busy. Everything else was in the same day, but it's been a while. And I did watch this clip, I Want My Life Back, like a couple hours ago. It sucked. Oh, I mean, it's not my first time watching it though, because I've seen the whole show, of course, obviously. Um, And I just want to say this show means so much to me. My favorite character is definitely Marie, of course. She is the one who truly takes down Walter White. She has brown hair, brown eyes, wears purple, used to wear black. She loves dogs and cats now. She's a mother and a great one. Um, we also do see proof that she is very anti-cop now that her cop husband is dead, and the spell has been broken. We learn that he actually casted a patriarchy spell on her that would make her succumb to patriarchy, and thankfully that's gone. It is a beautiful story. Um, Better Call Saul is another beautiful show, and I would love to talk about that sometime. So if this video gets 100 million views, I will talk about that. Um, we went from the pilot, we went from the cat being in the bag, all the way to Felina. Cats from the beginning to the end. That is just poetic. And you know what else is poetic? The USA, because Barack Obama was a big part of this series. Now, I won't keep things going for much longer, but I will say I do know that unfortunately when I was talking about Walter and Jesse's relationship earlier, and I was doing that edit, this little edit here. Unfortunately, you could not hear me very well because this was playing at the same time as me talking. So I just want to correct that, and I'm going to talk about it again so that we can be on the same page with everything. So we'll start this. So
tell me that I'm special, I smile and shake my head. I'll give them stories to tell friends about the things I said. They tell me I'm so humble, I say I'm turning red. They let me lie to them and don't feel like they've been misled. They give so much to me, I'm losing touch, get me served on a silver platter, ask for seconds, they just let me. They tell me I'm a god, I'm lost in the facade, 6 feet off the ground. At all times I think I'm feeling odd. No matter what I make, they never see mistakes. Making so much bread, I don't care that they're just being fake. They tell me they're below me, I act like I'm above. The people blend together, but I would be lost without their love. Staying still, eyes closed, let the world just pass me by. I paid bills, nice clothes. If I fall, I think I'll fly. Touch me, Midas, make me part of your design. None to guide us, I feel fear for the very last time. Lay still.
to think of it as like Walter White's, like when red things are in the washing machine with white things and it becomes pink, and it's like Walter White mixed with blood and death makes Jesse Pinkman because he influences him in a negative way. They have a toxic connection. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that you loved this video. This video is made for all my fans. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my Patreon. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my Ko-fi. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my membership on YouTube. And comment down below what your favorite Breaking Bad episode is. Comment who your favorite character is. I think I'm going to do my top 5 right now. So, number 1 is Marie. Number 2 is Saul / Ted. Number 3 is probably Uma / the Dia. Number 4 is probably Walter Jr. And number 5 is probably Gretchen. Those are my top 5 Breaking Bad characters. Let me know yours right now. And I'll see you all next time with my next awesome video. Goodbye, everybody.